Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 21. Click. A crisp sound of bone cracks sounded. Qing Ming took his hand from a bandit's head with an expressionless face and allowed his body to fall slowly to the ground. Gently let out a breath. Turning back, Qing Ming looked at Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani and said, "The light and dark whistle has been resolved. Let's act according to the plan, Shizuko." Hearing Qing Ming's call, Shizuko Mizutani stood up unconsciously. "You are optimistic about the way down the mountain and are responsible for dealing with the fish that have missed the net," Qing Ming said. Although he was still a little nervous, Shizuko Mizutani nodded seriously and signaled that she understood. Then, Qing Ming looked at Ryosuke and said, "Ryosuke, you and I go up the mountain to clear out those bandits." "No problem." Compared to Shizuko Mizutani, Ryosuke was much calmer, and even if he had to perform more dangerous tasks, he was not much timid. "What should I say? It is worthy of being a child born in the ninja world," and he adjusted so quickly. He looked at the other party deeply, and Qing Ming said, "Then let's start taking action." Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani nodded in agreement. Qing Ming immediately rushed to the mountain. Ryosuke followed him immediately. Shizuko Mizutani stood there for a while, and also got into the dense forest and hid her body. At this time, 3 hours had passed since they arrived at the Xiao territory. The first 2 hours were resting, and the next hour was used by them to clear the post. Now that the obstacles have been cleared, it is time to launch a general attack. Well, the general attack seems to be a little exaggerated. From those sentry positions, Qing Ming already knew that there were only about 50 people on the mountain, and there were probably less than 40 people who were still alive. As long as there is no super spec, there is no pressure on them at all. The only thing they need to pay attention to is to overcome psychological barriers. Fortunately, both Qing Ming and Ryosuke were adapting well. Under the moonlight, Qing Ming and Ryosuke stepped on the rocks and branches, quietly approaching the bandits' camp. It is said to be a camp, but it is actually just a wooden building, plus more than 20 wooden houses, and there is not even a wooden fence on the outside. Seeing this simple camp, Qing Ming finally understood why they sent so many posts. It was because they were afraid of death. Shaking his head and no longer thinking about it, Qing Ming made a few gestures to Ryosuke, and then the two of them touched the camp, one left and one right. The wooden building was the residence of the bandit leader, located in the center of the camp. In order to avoid being surrounded, he and Ryosuke decided to kill from the periphery. As long as the speed is fast enough, you don't have to worry about alerting the enemy. Kuchi. The sound of sharp blades entering the flesh sounded. Inside a wooden house, Qing Ming covered the bandit's mouth with one hand and sent Kyubi into the other hand with the other. After suffering from this severe blow, the bandit immediately opened their eyes, first at a loss, then at pain, then fear, and finally turned into ashes. Qing Ming stared at the other party's eyes throughout the whole process, without escaping or dodging, just watching quietly, forcing himself to accept all this and adapt to all this. Before he can change the world, he can only learn to adapt. Only by adapting to the rules of the ninja world can he survive better. After breathing a sigh of relief, Qing Ming left the wooden house after confirming that the target died. This wooden house is on the outermost periphery, both in terms of geographical location and in the wooden house itself, and of course only one person lives there. So, Qing Ming doesn't have to worry about disturbing others. Standing outside and after careful observation, Qing Ming chose a similar wooden house again and leaned over carefully. After observing through the crack in the door for a while, and after confirming that there was only one person in the room, Qing Ming pried open the door with Kuwu and flew into it. After a moment, Qing Ming walked out. Things were going very smoothly, and the other party was still sleeping, but he cut his throat with a knife. Afterwards, as usual, Qing Ming walked in and out of the wooden houses like a ***** of death, harvesting the life in it, and the whole process was silent. If you can continue like this, you can save a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, things often do not obey people's wishes. Just as he died of the 10th man, a scream of horror echoed throughout the camp. Qing Ming's movements paused slightly, and then he suffered more rapid results in his life. Then, he flashed and came outside the house, looking in the direction where the sound came. I saw a bandit rushing out of the house with his neck covering his neck, running and shouting, "Enemy attack! Enemy attack!" However, without saying a few words, a figure chased out of the house. If it weren't for Ryosuke, who else could it be? I saw that he rushed to the bandit and then stabbed it into his heart. The bandits' voices came to an abrupt end. Despite this, the entire camp became restless. Vaguely, Qing Ming could hear subtle sounds coming from the wooden houses. After thinking for a while, Qing Ming came to a wooden house and kicked it out, and the wooden door shattered in response. Before the two of them could figure out the situation in the room, he rushed in quickly and instantly killed them. Then he rushed out of the wooden house and came to another wooden house. He did the same thing and killed the bandits inside. Not only him, Ryosuke no longer hides his body, but only wants to kill the most enemies in the shortest time. In this way, when the chaos was temporarily resting, there were only 12 bandits left in the camp. The bandit leader looked at the only 11 people gathered around him, and his face looked very ugly. Tread. A sound of footsteps came. Qing Ming and Ryosuke walked out of the room, one left and one right. Looking at the forehead guards on their heads, a bandit shouted in horror, "It's a ninja. We're targeted by ninjas. It's over, we're over." Obviously, the war in the ninja world not only disturbed the major ninja villages, but also caused thousands of ordinary people to be disturbed. Perhaps in peacetime, these bandits could not recognize the identities of Aomi and Ryosuke ninja, but after the baptism of the ninja war, they immediately recognized it. Not only that, they also have a certain understanding of the horror of ninjas. Pa! A crisp slap came. Foa, nonsense. The boss of the bandit slapped the scared bandit in the face, spitted, glanced at Qing Ming and Ryosuke, and said viciously, "What are you afraid of? You're just two little kids. Let's go together, I don't believe that I can't kill them." After saying that, you must take the lead in charge. However, at this moment, Qing Ming flipped his hands and 6 shurikens appeared between his fingers. The next moment, the shuriken shot out. The bandit boss still wants to dodge, but LV2's, non-nose throwing, is not a joke. If it were a ninja, it would be possible to avoid the vital points or block them, but how could a mere bandit leader have such skills? So I saw that the bandit boss had just taken half a step and fell down straight. Ah, the boss is dead. Everyone, run. I don't know who shouted, and the 11 bandits immediately scattered and ran towards all directions. Qing Ming and Ryosuke looked at each other and followed the bandits running around, leaving only the bandits running down the mountain. Chapter 22 Return. Other side. Shizuko Mizutani was guarding the mountain road, her thoughts were changing. She was worried about the safety of Ao Ming and Ryosuke, and then she was wondering what she would do if the enemy came over. Time passed slowly as she waited nervously. I don't know how long it has passed, and a burst of rapid footsteps suddenly came from a distance. Shizuko Mizutani woke up instantly, and her spirit reached its limit at this moment. Who is it? Single quote. Qing Ming. No, his steps are not that heavy. Single quote. Ryosuke. Not right, the pace is too big, this is the sound of adult footsteps. Single quote. It's the enemy. Single quote. In an instant, Shizuko Mizutani got the answer. At this moment, all the thoughts in her mind disappeared. With almost no hesitation, Shizuko Mizutani leaned over. On the mountain road, 2 bandits were running in a hurry. While running, I didn't forget to look back from time to time. They had fear on their faces, as if they were worried that something would catch up with them. Swoosh. Suddenly, a sound of breaking through the air came from the side. Before the bandit in front could see the coming things clearly, a kunai was penetrated by a kunai. Ah! A scream came from his mouth, then he staggered and fell heavily to the ground, rolling for several times, feeling very embarrassed. Seeing this, the bandits behind stopped immediately and looked in the direction of Kuwu flying in nervously, and then saw a half-human tall little girl walking out of the forest. With just one glance, his eyes were attracted by what was on the girl's forehead. Just recently, 2 demons wearing the same thing slaughtered dozens of them, and now they met another one. This made him extremely scared. However, when he saw the girl's pretty face, a hint of hope arose in his heart. Without any hesitation, he plopped and knelt directly on the ground, crying, "Give me a side, I had no choice but to join them, and I had never done anything bad. I have 2 children in my family, about the same age as you. If I die, they will not be able to survive. They are so small and so pitiful. Please, for the sake of the child, let me go, I will never do bad things again." As he spoke, he kowtowed several times, with such great power that his forehead was bleeding. The miserable look made Shizuko Mizutani feel a little unbearable and said to herself, "Will what the other party said be true? If it is true, then I will kill him, child." Just as Shizuko Mizutani was fighting, it was difficult to make up her mind for a moment. When the bandit showed a look of gratitude on his face, a kunai suddenly shot from a distance and nailed into his throat accurately. Qing Ming and others flashed to the bandit, then suddenly pulled out Kuwu and let the blood splatter. Then, he walked to another bandit who had been scared and calmly stabbed Kyubi into his chest, ending his life. Qing Ming. Shizuko Mizutani looked at Qing Ming and stammered. "Don't think too much about doing tasks." Before she could continue talking, Qing Ming waved his hand and interrupted, "Don't forget the task requirements." After saying that, he walked down the mountain. Shizuko Mizutani stood there, stunned for a while before muttering, "Kill all the bandits." That's right, their requirement for this mission is to kill all the bandits on Shaohaitian Mountain and let anyone go. Strictly speaking, it is considered a mission failure. It's not that Qing Ming is so persistent about the mission, he is not Kakashi. The reason why he did this was just to let Shizuko Mizutani understand that the mission is a mission. It is easy to make things worse if you think too much when performing tasks. In the foreseeable future, for a long time, their 17th class will be a whole and will perform tasks together. Qing Ming doesn't want to be dragged down by his idiot teammates one day. So, when it is time to be cold, you must be cold. Of course, this is also a temporary solution. It is impossible for the village to do whatever the village asks him to do. Wouldn't that become a task tool like the root ninja? When his strength comes, he can naturally make a choice. At this stage, be good at being a good tool. The foot of the mountain. The three of them gathered together again. Furukawa, who had disappeared for several hours, also reappeared. His eyes swept across the three of them one by one, and finally said, "It's not bad," and then he led the three of them to the direction of the village. Perhaps considering the insecurity outside, Furukawa did not plan to sleep outside and was preparing to take them back overnight. In this regard, Qing Ming raised his hands and feet to agree. If possible, he wants to stay in the village. Unfortunately, this is impossible. Even from now on, he will leave the village from time to time to carry out his mission. Now I just hope that Furukawa will be more at ease and not take on too many sea-level tasks. In a flash, several hours passed. Early the next morning, Qing Ming and others returned to Konoha village. They were in danger and were astonished and smooth as they could not be real. As expected, I am not the protagonist, and the world will not revolve around me. Single quote. Thinking of Naruto's casual mission, he would eventually reach S level, Qing Ming couldn't help but feel ache. Fortunately, I don't have the protagonist halo and I won't be so unlucky. Single quote. Qing Ming was secretly grateful in his heart. Okay, let's go back and rest. Walking into the village, Furukawa stopped and said, "There is no task for the next 3 days, so you can relax properly." Goodbye, teacher. ×3. Qing Ming and the other two replied weakly. Okay, let's go. Furukawa waved his hand and signaled them to leave. After Qing Ming and his two companions said goodbye, they quickly rushed to the Uchiha clan. After returning home, Qing Ming sat on the chair for a while before he took off his equipment. Although this mission only took a day before and after, in his feeling, it seemed like a long time had passed. And he also went from an ordinary person who had never killed a chicken to an executioner who had killed more than 20 people. Although he convinced himself that these people were worthless and even had the leisure to pay attention to their teammates' ideological status, he still felt a little uncomfortable when he looked back on it. The scenes before those people died kept reappearing in front of him, making him unable to even practice. However, no matter whether you can lift your spirits or not, you cannot let go of your practice. Qing Ming forced himself to stabilize his mind, as if he was a beginner, and began to use the spirit of heart reflection in a straightforward manner. This mission did not happen unexpectedly, and it would not be possible to kill those bandits, so there was still plenty of chakra in his body. This can't be wasted. So, Qing Ming became proficient in the spirit of heart reflection. Looking at the increasing proficiency on the panel, Qing Ming's heart calmed down unknowingly. Soon, the chakra was exhausted, and Qing Ming began to refine the chakra again. After the chakra was filled, I practiced the spirit of heart reflection again. In this way, after 2 rounds of practice, it was already noon. Qing Ming could no longer hold on, so he washed up casually and fell asleep. In the bedroom, Qing Ming didn't know what he dreamed of, and his brows frowned from time to time and then loosened. Chapter 23 Ordinary. 3 days later. Northwest of Konoha. In a forest, Qing Ming and others came here. Is that just here? Ryosuke looked around and asked. Furukawa nodded and said, next, you will collect herbs here according to the task requirements. Remember, don't pick them wrong. Yes, they started performing tasks again today. As Qing Ming thought, Fukugawa did not continue to take on the C-level task in a daze, but instead found a D-level task to collect herbs. No need to think, this mission must have been released by the Nara clan. After all, they contracted this forest. Not only are there various herbs that are difficult to cultivate manually, but there are also huge herds of deer, and the horns of these deer are all precious medicinal materials. Adding up all kinds of things, the value is self-evident. Therefore, even ninjas in the same village cannot enter at will without their approval. They took over the task, otherwise they would have been stopped before they got close. New. Hearing Furukawa's instructions, Ryosuke waved his hand impatiently and muttered, it's true, ordinary people can do such a simple task, so we must do it. Ryosuke, stop talking. Hearing his words, Shizuko Mizutani first comforted her and then explained seriously, although this forest is safer, there are still wild animals that occasionally come into trouble. It will be very dangerous for ordinary people to encounter it, so we ninjas should do it. Seeing Shizuko Mizutani explaining seriously, Ryosuke hurriedly said, okay, Shizuko, stop thinking, I understand. Seeing the two of them looking like this, Qing Ming secretly felt relieved. Obviously, 3 days are enough for them to adjust their mentality. However, the mission 3 days ago did not have any impact on them, don't look at their current behavior as they did in the past. But after seeing the blood, the childishness on the two of them was obviously much less. And this is probably the purpose of Furukawa and even the village. Shake his head and stop thinking about it. Qing Ming had a thought, gathered some chakra on the soles of his feet, then followed the steps of his two companions and went deep into the dense forest. After more than 3 days of practice, his chakra control has been improved from LV2 355 to LV3 3/1000, and his control over chakra has been further strengthened. Now, if he uses the same ninjutsu to ensure that the power remains unchanged, he can save 15% of the chakra. This is already the limit that ordinary people can reach. Even if he has the proficiency panel bonus, it can ensure continuous progress, but it is unlikely that he will make a new breakthrough in a short period of time. Nothing else, after being promoted to LV3, the efficiency of skill in winning is greatly reduced. Previously, he could get about 40 to 50 points a day, but now he only has 5 points at most. Compared with the efforts, this gain is completely worth mentioning. Just practicing chakra control does not need to consume too much chakra, nor does it take up his extra time, otherwise he would have stopped long ago. Before he gets a more effective way of exercise, he no longer intends to waste too much time and energy on it. In the future, he may only practice in his free time. Just like now, when collecting herbs, you can practice it when you are idle. Qing Ming, hurry up. Just as Qing Ming was thinking about everything, Ryosuke's voice came from the front. Hearing this, Qing Ming replied, "Here you come." As I spoke, the person had already leaned forward. Time passed slowly, and Qing Ming and the other two were carrying out D-level tasks without any technical content as if they had just graduated. In a blink of an eye, a week has passed. That night. Home. Qing Ming opened his eyes, allowing the special chakra in his mind to be triggered by the soul reflecting technique to dissipate, and slowly opened the panel. Name: Uchiha Aomi. Age: 10 years old. Physical constitution: 6. Spirit: 7. Chakra: 14 1546 right pointing arrow 2011. Bloodline: Sharingan unawakened 81 100ths. Skill: Chakra refining, LV2 245 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 365 hundredths. Clone technique, LV2 145 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 275 hundredths. Transformation technique, LV2 135 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 265 hundredths. Stand-in technique, LV2 110 5 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 255 hundredths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball, LV1 16 200ths right pointing arrow LV1 32 hundredths. The art of reflecting the heart, LV2 110 5 hundredths. Basic physical skills, LV2 155 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 285 hundredths. Throwing tools, LV2 265 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 385 hundredths. Chakra control, LV3 25 1000ths. Across the basic attributes, Qing Ming locked the awakening progress of the Sharingan at a glance. Sure enough, hasn't it increased? Looking at the Sharingan awakening progress that was still at 81 100ths on the panel, Qing Ming murmured. Just now, he felt that the science of the heart reflection technique was insufficient, but now he looked at it and it turned out to be so. If the heart reflection technique, whose level is upgraded to LV2 110 500ths, should be able to achieve his Sharingan awakening level 82 100ths. But the reality is that its progress is still 81 100ths. Sure enough, did the worry still happen? Single quote. A long time ago, Qing Ming knew that Sharingan was not so easy to awaken, and the effect of the shining heart technique will inevitably become worse and worse as the awakening progress increases. As expected, when the Sharingan awakening level reached 81 100ths, the proficiency of the 10-point, the art of reflecting the heart, is no longer enough to move him forward 1 point. If it were other Uchiha people, they would basically be stuck here. Afterwards, either wait for the opportunity, just like those Uchiha tribe who awakened the Sharingan in the past, they opened their eyes according to the traditional way, or they worked hard to improve their proficiency in the soul-reflecting art, and slowly polished it. If the former is successful, it will inevitably weaken the role of the spirit of heart reflection, while the latter will basically see no hope. Because this is just the beginning. Now the proficiency of the soul-reflecting art, at 10 o'clock cannot help the awakening of the Sharingan, and the latter may not be able to help the 20 or 30 o'clock. This is a road that cannot be seen. Of course, Qing Ming is different. With the proficiency panel, he can easily improve his proficiency in the spiritual of heart reflection. No matter how long the road is, he can see the end. Pressing down the urge to continue practicing the soul-reflecting art, Qing Ming looked at the other parts of the panel. I won't talk about the 3 body techniques, basic body techniques, and non-nest tool throwing, and the improvement speed has not changed much. In 10 days, it has almost been more than 100 points in proficiency. However, the chakra upper limit is more than 10 points less than expected. Originally, the proficiency of chakra refining increased by 120 points, and the upper limit of chakra should be increased by 480 points. 1546 plus 480 equals 2026. But now, his chakra upper limit is only 2011 points, 15 points less than the theoretical value. The reason for this is very simple. His bucket is about to reach its limit. Chakra refining technique accelerated his process of exploring his potential, but it could not improve his qualification limit. Now, the chakra upper limit increased by it is only a dozen points lower than the theoretical value. After a while, it will probably be dozens of points. When his potential is fully tapped, the effect of the chakra refining technique is probably the only thing left to restore chakra. I have to awaken the Sharingan as soon as possible. Only by awakening the Sharingan can I greatly improve my qualifications. With a murmur, Qing Ming closed the panel and started a new round of cultivation. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 24 Encountered by Chance. Qing Ming, here. In Konoha village, on a street, Ryosuke waved to Qing Ming from a distance, and Shizuko Mizutani stood beside him. Qing Ming walked over slowly when he heard this. As Qing Ming approached, Ryosuke said dissatisfiedly, "Qing Ming, you are too slow. You agreed to go shopping together, so you can't arrive early." Qing Ming knew that Ryosuke was not really dissatisfied, but was just a habitual complaint, so he didn't explain anything, just asked, "Where are we going first?" Originally, according to Qing Ming's personality, it was impossible to waste time shopping. Konoha has nothing to visit either. But considering that I was too tense during this period, after hesitating, I agreed to the invitation of Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani to come and relax. At this time, half a month has passed since the effectiveness of the Shining Heart technique has been reduced. In the past half month, Furukawa took them to perform another sea-level mission. However, it is not a bandit suppression, but a caravan. During this period, although I encountered some trouble, I was all in the scope of the task and did not encounter any danger. This made Qing Ming sigh again. It would be better if he didn't have the protagonist's halo. Go over there, a new meatball shop has been opened there, it's delicious. Ryosuke stretched out his hand and said. Hearing this, Qing Ming looked in the direction of the other party's finger. There was indeed a newly opened shop there, and there were many people in front of the door, which should have a good taste. Just as he was thinking this way, Qing Ming suddenly heard several familiar names. Kakashi, hurry up, we are going to make up for Lin's missed birthday today. Ah, Obito, don't want it anymore. No, you must make up for it. I know a new meatball shop has been opened before, which is delicious. I will treat you later. Kakashi, don't it with me. Kakashi Obitalan. As he was silently reciting in his heart, Qing Ming looked in the direction where the sound came. I saw three small figures walking together at the other end of the street. The person in front of him was facing his back, and the back of the clothes was like him. There was the clan emblem of the Uchiha clan. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be Uchiha Obito. The other party was saying something excited at this time, as if he didn't care about the gaze of the people around him. The two men and women behind him were both facing him, so that he could easily see his face. Well, no, there is one person who can't see clearly. He is about 11 or 12 years old, with silver hair, a short knife, a mask, and a cold expression. He is Haki Kakashi who has not yet walked out of the shadow of his father's death. There is a mask covering, and even if you face to face, Qing Ming cannot see his full picture. Just as Qing Ming was observing the other party also looked over. What a keen perception. Single quote. Qing Ming was still sighing, but just as the two sides looked at each other, a chill surged into his heart. This is a strange feeling, as if he was targeted by some ferocious beast, making people tremble. Qing Ming quickly looked away. Qing Ming, what's wrong? Seeing Qing Ming suddenly stopped, his face looked a little ugly, Mizutani Shizuko asked with concern. Huh. Qing Ming vomited a breath of turbid air and slowly spoke, it's nothing. After saying that, he moved his steps and continued to walk forward, his eyes inevitably contacted Kakashi again. But this time, he no longer had the fear he had just now. That's right, just as he looked at each other, he was afraid. He has killed anyone, but he only killed some bandits and robbers who have no power to tie a chicken, while Kakashi is different. The other party has really been on the battlefield and struggled in the sea of corpses and blood. Both sides are not on the same level at all. Therefore, it is no big deal to develop a fear, as long as it can be overcome. Other side. Uchiha Obito saw Kakashi looking behind him and asked in confusion, what's wrong? While speaking, he also looked back. With just one glance, he recognized Qing Ming's identity. There is no way, the ping-pong racket is too conspicuous. Are you a junior in the clan? Thinking of this in his heart, Obito withdrew his gaze and asked Kakashi, what's wrong with him? From Qing Ming's outfit and age, it is highly likely that he is a graduate this year. Uchiha Obito couldn't understand what such a person deserves attention from. Hearing Obito's inquiry, Kakashi just shook his head and didn't say much. Soon, both sides came to the meatball shop. Kakashi, Obito and Lin were in the front, while Aoming and two companions were in the back. In the team, Obito and Ryosuke kept saying something. Lin and Shizuko Mizutani agreed, while Kakashi and Aoming didn't say a word. A few minutes later, Kakashi and others bought meatballs and left together. Qing Ming stood in the team, looking at the three of them leaving, and muttered to himself, I should have come back to take the Zongnan exam. That's right, after a period of thinking, he had roughly guessed why Kakashi and the others appeared in the village. Konoha holds two Chunin exams every year, once in early January and once in early July. It is the end of November, and it is about to start the new Zongnan exam. Based on their age, it is not difficult to guess the purpose of their return at this time. A month is long and short. If it was a peace period, it would be nothing. No matter how long it was, it would be enough to get back, but during the war period, the time was a bit short. Although most of the Shinen are cannon fodder characters on the battlefield, they are definitely not included those guys who are recommended by the Shinen to take the Chunin exam. And this kind of Shy Ninja usually undertakes certain tasks on the battlefield. To gather these people together, we should naturally not just use a random order like we cannon fodder ninjas. At least we have to arrange people to take over their jobs. In addition, for the safety of these people must be sent to them. To a certain extent, these shrines are the future of the village. Once something happens on the road, the village may be divided. Therefore, for safety reasons, we will definitely not return at the same time. In this way, it is not surprising to see them 1 month in advance. If he had expected it was not bad, the other three should be the first group of ninjas to return to the village, and more would probably be back in the next month. As for whether the guess is accurate, just look at the number of young ninjas in the village in the next month. But, Zongnan exam. Qing Ming had a kind of intuition that after the Zongnan exam, their newbies might be sent to the battlefield. In other words, there is not much time left for him. When she thought of this, Qing Ming wanted to go home to practice immediately. But after looking at the two teammates in front, I finally suppressed my restlessness. Since you have decided to relax, you can't give up halfway. As the saying goes, sharpening a knife will not delay chopping wood. The short rest is for the purpose of further hard work in the future. Qing Ming, what does it taste like? Just as Qing Ming was pondering, Ryosuke turned around and asked. Spicy. Qing Ming replied casually. Chapter 25 LV3. Leisure time always passes quickly. In a blink of an eye, a morning passed. The three of them parted ways after lunch. Qing Ming did not waste his time, so he went straight back to his home, and then started practicing without stopping. In the past half-month, it has been delayed for a while because of leaving the village to perform sea-level tasks. Therefore, the chakra refining technique that should have been promoted a few days ago has only been LV2 495 500ths. Fortunately, it's soon. According to the current progress, you should be able to advance before dark. Thinking of this, Qing Ming closed his eyes and entered a state of cultivation. Time passes by minute by minute. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. The sun in the sky has set in the west. Inside the house, Qing Ming suddenly opened his eyes, and a sense of enlightenment appeared in his heart. After a long time, he said to himself, are you finally LV3? After saying that, he closed his eyes again and began to refine the chakra. 1 hour later, Qing Ming opened his eyes and called out, panel. The next moment, a familiar light blue light curtain appeared. Name, Uchiha Aomi. Age, 10 years old. Physical constitution, 6. Spirit, 7. Chakra, 1650-2510. Bloodline, Sharingan unawakened 81 100ths right pointing arrow 85 100ths. Skill, Chakra refining, LV3 1 1000th right pointing arrow LV3 2 1000ths. Clone technique, LV2 275 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 435 hundredths. Transformation technique, LV2 265 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 425 hundredths. Stand-in technique, LV2 255 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 410 500ths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball, LV1 32 hundredths right pointing arrow LV1 52 hundredths. The art of reflecting the heart, LV2 110 500ths right pointing arrow LV2 265 hundredths. Basic physical skills, LV2 285 hundredths right pointing arrow LV2 455 hundredths. Ninja tool throwing, LV3 1 1000th. Chakra control, LV3 78 1000ths. As he realized just now, the effect of the chakra refining technique, promoted to LV3 was once again enhanced. Among them, the chakra recovery speed has changed from 200 points per hour to 400 points now, and the maximum chakra that can be increased during the period should change from 4 points to 8 points. The reason why I was uncertain is that after his chakra limit reached 2,500 points a week ago, he was not very moved. The next 10 o'clock will increase by itself over time. Therefore, LV3's chakra refinement can increase the 8-point chakra limit every hour of running, just his estimate. However, the feeling in the dark tells Qing Ming that this number should be correct. But this is useless. His potential was exhausted a week ago. Without improving his qualifications, his future growth can only be achieved by water. This cannot be solved by upgrading the chakra refining technique, and the two are not on the same channel at all. In other words, the current chakra refining technique has only one effect for him, that is, to quickly restore chakra. Of course, you can continue to improve your proficiency. If his level can be improved to a higher level, when the Sharingan awakens one day and drives his qualifications to improve, he can also realize his new potential faster. However, Qing Ming probably won't be able to wait for that day. It's not that there is not enough time, but that he estimated that his Sharingan should be able to awaken before his level is improved. After all, the chakra refining needs to be proficient from LV3 to LV4. At the rate at which it has been operating for an hour, it will take 1,000 hours. But with his current physical fitness and adequate nutrition, he can only last for up to 8 hours a day. Divide 1000 by 8 equals 125. That is 4 months. After such a long time, why did his Sharingan awaken? Don't look at the past half month, his Sharingan awakening progress has only improved by 4 points, from 81 100ths to 85 100ths. It seems to be completely inconsistent with the 150 points increase in the science of heart. But it is undeniable that he has taken another step further from awakening. And, as the chakra refining is promoted to LV3, the maximum amount of chakra he can use every day has also increased. Previously, it was almost 2,400, approximately 2,500 points, but now it has become around 3,500 points. If you use 3,000 of them to practice the spirit of heart reflection, combined with the 15% chakra reduction brought by LV3's chakra control, it can increase the proficiency of the art of reflecting the heart by 17 to 18 points per day. In this way, the awakening progress of his Sharingan will inevitably accelerate. For this reason, Qing Ming said that he could awaken the Sharingan in 4 months. Even 4 months have been far overestimated. Nothing else, according to this plan, it will take only 2 weeks to improve his heart reflecting technique to LV3, and the effect will inevitably be greatly increased by then. In this way, his Sharingan awakening speed will inevitably be far beyond expectations. Forcefully suppressed the restlessness in his heart, Qing Ming turned his gaze away from the awakening of Sharingan and looked at other skills. Although these skills are not his focus, after taking the time to practice, the progress is also good, such as the 3-body technique. His proficiency has reached LV2, 400 500ths. If these E-level basic ninjutsu are as expected, LV3 is the maximum level, then it will be not far apart. By then, he might be able to learn another ninjutsu. As for what to learn, Qing Ming probably also had an idea. He does not need attack ninjutsu for the time being. The fire escape and fireball technique can be used first, and there will be Sharingan assistance in the future, so there is no lack of attacking means. But in terms of defense, there is no serious defensive ninja skills in the ninja world, so we can only increase the means of running away in disguise. So, the instant body technique entered his vision. In the ninja world, the instant body technique can be roughly divided into 3 categories. The first is the ninjutsu type, such as Gaara's sand instant body, the fog instant body that never slashes, Hanzo's water instant body, and the most widely circulated D-level ninjutsu instant body technique in the ninjutsu world, etc. These are all achieved through the effects of ninjutsu. The second is physical skills. This type of instant body technique is used to strengthen the muscles of the ninja legs to achieve the purpose of rapid movement. Among them, the more representative ones are Mateke and the 4th generation Leiying. As for the third category, that is, the instantaneous body technique represented by the Flying Thunder God, which directly uses space transfer to perform instantaneous movement. Compared with the first two, the name is not true, it only accelerates the movement speed through various methods, the latter is undoubtedly closer to the concept of instant body technique. However, Qing Ming's goal is not the technique of Flying Thunder God. It's not that he doesn't want it, or he's worried that he can't learn it. With the proficiency panel, only without special needs, he can forcefully get started with any ninjutsu through water grinding. The Flying Thunder God technique belongs to this category. So, in theory, as long as he gets the practice method of the Flying Thunder God technique, he can learn it. But the problem is, he can't get it. If it is the ninjutsu in the clan, he can still think of a way, but the Flying Thunder God technique is an S-level ninjutsu recorded in the Book of Seals. How could he have a chance to get it if he is a mere ninja? After all, he is not Naruto, and no one paved the way for him. So, what he was going to learn was actually the D-level ninjutsu, the instantaneous body technique. But a bad streak does not mean that its effect is not good, but it means that it is universal, just like the shadow clone technique, it has a very cost-effectiveness. Just in time, he can use this technique to transition. Once the strength has improved, there are more choices to make. After pondering for a while, Qing Ming turned his attention to the basic physical technique and ninja throwing. The former has reached LV2 450/500s, and it will be upgraded in no time, while the latter has been upgraded from LV2 to LV3. Unfortunately, after being promoted to LV3 1/1000th, its proficiency was stuck. Qing Ming had long expected this. Without the cooperation of Sharingan, the limit of throwing the sage is here. You still have to be the Sharingan. With a sigh, Qing Ming closed the panel and began to practice the proficiency of the art of reflecting the heart. Chapter 26 News. Sizzy, Qing Ming, I'm ready to intercept you. I'm going to your side. Ryosuke's voice came from his headphones. Qing Ming pressed the headset and replied, okay, I saw it. On the tree branch, Qing Ming looked at the giant wild boar rushing around and threw out a kunai. Kyu swept through the air, like a bullet, hitting the wild boar's left eye quickly and accurately. The blood fell along the kunai, causing the wild boar to roar in pain. Roar. I have to say that these animals in the ninja realm are really outrageous. Not to mention their size, their vitality is extremely tenacious. Just like now, even if the eyes are pierced and the brain is damaged, the wild boar below is still jumping around. But that's the end. With a mutter, Qing Ming raised his right hand and ignited the detonation talisman tied to the supreme kuna. Boom. A violent explosion sounded. A red flame suddenly appeared, covering the entire wild boar. The pain caused by the burning flames made the wild boar wail and crazily hit the surrounding trees. Even the big tree where Qing Ming was hiding was hit. As a last resort, Qing Ming had to change his hiding point. After a few breaths, the flames gradually disappeared, and the wild boar stopped going crazy, lying straight on the ground without moving. Looking at the charred wild boar, Qing Ming did not approach, but took out a kunai again and threw it out like an electric shot, hitting the other eye of the boar. Poochie. The sound of sharp blades entering the flesh sounded. The wild boar stood up, wailed and broke several big trees, and fell to the ground again. Looking at the wild boar's chest and abdomen gradually disappearing, Qing Ming snorted coldly, HMPH. A beast is a beast, no matter how cunning he is. Although the other party knew to pretend to be dead, the rising and falling chest easily exposed its tricks. Qing Ming naturally could not get caught in such a trap. But now, you can be sure that the other party is dead. Brush. Two figures appeared, which were Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani. Qing Ming, you're a waste of this. Ryosuke looked at the wild boar's head that was charred by the detonation talisman and said, don't you know the fireball technique? Why use the detonation talisman? Indeed, it is not cost-effective to kill such a wild boar and use a detonation talisman. Even if you have a task reward, you will lose money when you finally settle the score. But this can save chakra. Although using the fire escape and the fireball technique can also increase his proficiency, his current focus is not on this, so it is a little bit easier. For Qing Ming, if you spend a little money to use more chakra in the places you should use, it will not be a loss. At this time, it had been a week since he met Kakashi and others. During this week, he spent the rest of his time practicing except for eating, sleeping and doing tasks. With such hard work, the results achieved are naturally not bad. First of all, he has practiced all three body techniques to perfection, that is, LV3. At this time, he can complete it in 1 second whether it is the simplest, transformation technique, or the most difficult, stand-in technique. What is this concept? Many Chunin is not as good as his in performing these three ninjutsu. Of course, that's all. After all, it is a basic ninjutsu. The difficulty of learning is only E level. As long as you use snacks, it is not too difficult to practice until you are perfect. Secondly, his basic physical skills has also been upgraded from LV2 to LV3. Originally, he was looking forward to whether he could improve his physique a little more like LV1 and LV2. In this way, his chakra upper limit can continue to increase. But he was disappointed. The basic body art has been upgraded from LV2 to LV3. Even though it has reached the perfect state like the three body art, it cannot change its physical attributes. However, if you think about it, if your physical attributes can be improved so easily, there will not be so many ninjas in the ninja world, and you will be wandering around the ninja for the rest of your life. You should know that every little improvement in physical fitness is a transformation for ninjas. As long as you transform once or twice in the lower ninja stage, you can become a Zongnan, at least the amount of chakra is absolutely enough. Therefore, it is normal for the basic physical skills LV2 to LV3. It is not increasing in its physical properties, and at least some advanced physical skills are needed. Finally, it is the art of reflecting the heart. In 7 days, his proficiency increased by 125 points in total, and the level changed from LV2 265/100ths to LV2 385/500ths. Thanks to this, his Sharingan awakening progress has been increased from 85/100ths to 87/100ths. Unexpectedly, the speed did not decrease further. Now I am just waiting for the shining art to be promoted to LV3. If the effect is powerful, maybe he can awaken the Sharingan before the end of the Zhongren exam. Otherwise, he will go to the battlefield with naked eyes. Yes, Qing Ming has already received news that their graduates will return to the battlefield with the new Zhongren. It is precisely because of this that he takes any chakra very seriously. Even the plan to learn instant body technique has been temporarily put on hold. Next, except for the necessary consumption, he intends to use all the other chakras to practice the spirit of heart reflection. He really doesn't feel much security without Sharingan as his trump card. All kinds of thoughts flashed through my mind. Qing Ming looked at Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani and said, "There are many wild animals in this forest. Our mission is very heavy. It's nothing to waste a few detonation talismans." The task they received this time was to expel all wild beasts within a radius of 10 kilometers, and the task required that the number of kills should not be less than 1/3 of the total. If so many wild beasts are expelled or killed according to the conventional methods, they will inevitably consume a lot of chakra, and will also prolong the mission time. Qing Ming doesn't want to waste his time and energy here, so he would rather spend more money than complete the task as soon as possible. Without giving Ryosuke a chance to speak again, Qing Ming pulled out his kunai from the wild boar, wiped it, and said, "I'm going to Area 2. Please hurry up and drive away the beasts." After saying that, he jumped away regardless of the reaction between the two. Looking at his left back, Ryosuke turned to Shizuko Mizutani and said, "Shika, do you feel that Qing Ming is a little impatient recently?" After hearing this, Shizuko Mizutani nodded. In fact, she had discovered this a long time ago, but she just didn't say it out. "Then do you know why?" Ryosuke asked curiously. "Maybe it's because of the Chunin exam." Mizutani Shizuko replied. "Chunin exam?" Ryosuke said with a puzzled look. "What does this have to do with us? We won't participate." Hearing this, Shizuko Mizutani hesitated for a while, carefully glanced around her eyes, and after confirming that there was no one, she told the news she got from Nasan's father. "I heard that the village plans to let us, who are the people, end the Zongnan exam and go to the battlefield with the new Zongnan." "What?" When he suddenly heard the news, Ryosuke screamed in shock. Although he hates performing D-level tasks without any technical content, he also knows the dangers of the battlefield, so he naturally doesn't want to go to the battlefield so quickly. "Shish." Shizuko Mizutani raised her index finger with her right hand, gestured to silence, and said, "Sound down, my dad won't let me tell you this news, don't spread it randomly." Profound. Ryosuke reacted, nodded, and said, "Don't worry, I won't talk nonsense." In fact, they were too worried, and it would be nothing even if it spread. Because this matter is a foregone conclusion. Although the news is only circulated in the mouths of Shangren and various major families, it will not take long before everyone will know it, and there is no need to keep it confidential at all. "Okay, Ryosuke, let's go." The two were silent for a while, and Shizuko Mizutani spoke. Profound. Hearing this, Ryosuke came to his senses, responded, and said, "Let's go." Then, the two rushed to Area 3 together. Chapter 27 Awakening. Time passes by like a flash of time. In a blink of an eye, it was a month later. On this day, the last Konoha Chunin examination was underway. Although it was not as lively as the joint examinations of several villages in peacetime, many people still went to see them. However, Qing Ming is not included among these people. Because today is a very important day for him. As soon as the thought came to mind, Qing Ming opened the panel. I saw that the awakening degree of Sharingan on it had reached 99/100ths, and it was only one step away from the complete awakening. Looking at the science of heart, again, his proficiency has already exceeded LV2 and reached LV3, 595/1000ths. As he expected, after the spirit of heart reflection was upgraded to LV3, its promotion effect on Sharingan awakening was far greater than that of LV2. LV2 reached the top and only made his Sharingan awakening level reach 89/100ths. But after being promoted to LV3, the effect has increased greatly. Basically, every time he accumulates 50 points of proficiency, he can make his Sharingan awakening progress a little. So, for more than a month, Qing Ming used almost all the chakra that he could use to practice the sin reflecting technique. In the end, his proficiency was improved to LV3, 595/1000ths. Originally, according to the rules, when his proficiency in the spirit of heart reaches LV3, 551/1000ths, the Sharingan should awaken. But I never thought that the last little progress could not be broken. Now, his proficiency in the spirit of heart has reached LV3, 595/1000ths, but he still has not been able to make a breakthrough. But it's soon. The intuition in the dark tells Qing Ming that as long as the spirit of heart reflection is used to reach LV3, 600/1000ths, the Sharingan will definitely awaken. Feeling the pounding heart in his chest, Qing Ming took several deep breaths until his mood completely calmed down and then began to use the heart reflection technique. Once, twice, 3 times, 5 times. Soon, the proficiency of the shining art reached LV3, 600/1000ths. In just the next moment, when Qing Ming used the heart reflection technique, for the sixth time, the special chakra catalyzed in his mind suddenly surged. These chakras poured into Qing Ming's eyes, as if they had reached some critical point, changing his visual nerves from the root. A sour, numb and itchy feeling came, making Qing Ming unable to help rub his eyes. And when his palm was removed, a pair of single magma Sharingans appeared in his eyes. In an instant, Qing Ming felt that everything around him became clear, just as if the picture quality in front of him changed from 720p to 1080p. The dust in the air, the lines on the leaves outside the window, the smiling faces of pedestrians on the streets in the distance, everything is so clear. Is this the vision of the Sharingan? After a long time, Qing Ming came to his senses and couldn't help but sigh. Then, he lowered his head and looked at himself. Although you cannot directly see the chakra meridians and acupoints like rolling your eyes, you can see the amount of chakra and the rough direction of chakra. Just like now, he could clearly see that there were not many chakras in his body, and these chakras were still gathering towards his head and eyes. From this, it can be imagined that when he fights with others in the future, he can see these with just one eye opening. Then, no matter what the enemy wants to do, he can predict in advance, and the advantages are self-evident. No wonder there is a saying in the ninja realm, to deal with the Sharingan, 1-on-1, you must escape, 2-on-1, and attack the rear. Indeed, when the strengths of head-on battles are not much different, Sharingan has the advantage. This is just the insight effect of Sharingan. In addition to insight, Sharingan also has two powerful functions, hypnosis and replication. The former can prevent Uchiha ninja from being influenced by ordinary illusions and enhance the effect on enemy illusions. The latter allows Uchiha ninja to replicate his opponent's physical skills and ninjutsu. However, the development of this ability depends largely on the Uchiha ninja's own abilities. For example, replication technique. The enemy's actions may be easily copied. But if your physical fitness does not meet the standards, even if you copy it, you cannot use it. If you force it, it may hurt yourself. Another example is ninjutsu. First of all, ninjutsu related to the blood resistance limit cannot be replicated. Secondly, ninjutsu that does not match its own attributes cannot be copied. For example, Qing Ming now has the chakra attribute of fire, so before he develops other attributes, he can only copy the fire escape ninjutsu. Even if you don't understand the morphological changes and nature changes of fire attribute chakra, the copied ninjutsu is also like that. Because of these restrictions, so many Sharingans, only Kakashi, who has all the attributes and is extremely talented, has emerged as a copy ninja. Retracting his thoughts, Qing Ming closed the Sharingan, and with a thought, he opened the proficiency panel. Name: Uchiha Aomi. Age: 10 right pointing arrow 11 years old. Physical constitution: 6 right pointing arrow 7. Spirit: 7 right pointing arrow 9. Chakra: 232,510 right pointing arrow 2570. Bloodline: Sharingan single Gotu 1/1000th. Skill: Chakra refining, LV3 2/1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 266 1/1000ths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball, LV1 5200ths. The art of reflecting the heart, LV3 601 1/1000ths. Ninja tool throwing, LV3 1/1000th. Chakra control, LV3 78 1/1000ths right pointing arrow 102 1/1000ths. 3 body techniques, LV3 0/0. Basic physical skills, LV3 0/0. As he expected, the awakening of the Sharingan led to the improvement of his qualifications. Among them, the physical attributes have increased a little, and the mental attributes have increased 2 points. 1 point and 2 points seem to be different, but in fact they are not. Whether it is physical attributes or mental attributes, the more you go, the harder it is to improve. The difficulty is not at the same level as the physical fitness is improved from 6 points to 7 points and the spirit is improved from 7 points to 9 points. If you have to compare, the latter is at least 10 times more difficult than the former. Therefore, the improvement of physical attributes this time is more like an improvement of mental attributes. And this is also more in line with the characteristics of the Sharingan. Originally, Sharingan is the power to Yin Lun, and it is normal to stimulate the growth of spiritual attributes after awakening. The increase in physical attributes is actually due to the continuous development of the body during this period and the accumulation of enough background, which naturally changes. Sharingan awakening plays the role of at most one lead. However, no matter what the process is, the result is good. The improvement of the 2 basic attributes has further improved his potential. In this way, his chakra refining technique has also become useful. When it is operated later, it can increase the chakra limit. As for how much it can be improved, it is not clear yet. However, Qing Ming estimated that it would not be less than 1,500 points. Turning his eyes away from the basic attributes, Qing Ming looked at the bloodline column. I saw that the original, Sharingan unawakened 99 100ths on it had become, Sharingan Singen single Gotu 1 1000th. If there is a progress bar, it means that it can continue to rely on skill to evolve as before. However, how to brush it remains to be tested. In addition, the consumption of Sharingan also requires detailed testing. Qing Ming didn't want to be fighting someone one day when he suddenly realized that there was not enough chakra, and then he died unlucky. With the proficiency panel, he can quantify these consumptions so that he can know what is going on. Chapter 28 Plan. In a flash, another week passed. The time to set out to the battlefield is getting closer. Yes, the news has been made public. Their graduates will go to the battlefield of the Rain Kingdom together with the new Zongnan, the Shonen who failed to advance, and a large number of family ninjas. The country of rain. In the room, Qing Ming sighed lightly, silent. If you want to say where he doesn't want to go the least, it is undoubtedly the battlefield of the Kingdom of Rain. The country of rain is located between the country of wind, country of earth and country of fire, and is bordered by several small countries around it. Its unique geographical location makes it a must-fight place for villages in previous ninja wars. This time is naturally no exception. Sandnin, Iwa Ninin, Konoha Ninja, Bounty Ninja, Rain Country's own ninja, Akatsuki Ninja, Cloud Hidden Village and Mizuki Ninja, etc., all the light and dark things are here, and the situation is extremely complicated. The complex situation also makes the ninjas from all sides tense. If there is any slight disturbance, it will end up endlessly. So, the Kingdom of Rain became a famous ninja tomb and a battlefield meat grinder. The ninjas there are far higher than the survival pressures of several other battlefields. So, Qing Ming didn't want to go there. Unfortunately, this cannot be decided by him. As for leaving the village, not to mention that there are many ninjutsu in the Uchiha clan and Konoha, he needs them all, but he can't afford the price of becoming a rebel ninja. Although he awakened the Sharingan, his comprehensive strength is the level of Zongnan. With such strength, it is impossible for Konoha Anbu to escape the pursuit. Moreover, in this world, it is not necessarily safe outside. You should know that the Uchiha clan's Sharingan is always on the black market acquisition list. Once his identity is exposed, the one that will greet him will inevitably be waves of bounty ninjas. Qing Ming didn't want to be chased and ran away like a mouse. Instead of doing this, it is better to follow the village's arrangements and go to the battlefield. With Sharingan as the trump card and the proficiency panel to assist in growth, Qing Ming felt that he would not be in danger of life if he was a little more at ease. Thinking of Sharingan, Qing Ming opened the panel. The familiar light blue light curtain immediately appeared in his vision. Name: Uchiha Aomi. Age: 11 years old. Physical constitution: 7. Spirit: 9. Chakra: 1450 2570 right pointing arrow 3018. Bloodline: Sharingan single Egiyama 1 1000th right pointing arrow 30 1000ths. Skill: Chakra refining, LV3 266 1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 322 1000ths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball, LV1 5200ths. The art of reflecting the heart, LV3 601 1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 683 1000ths. Ninja tool throwing, LV3 1 1000th. Chakra control, LV3 102 1000ths. 3 body techniques, LV3 0/0. Basic physical skills, LV3 0/0. Over the past week, he has been intensively testing the consumption of Sharingan while exploring the law of increasing proficiency. After a week of testing, both questions have answers. First of all, the consumption of Sharingan. If you just open your eyes and don't fight, you will only consume a little chakra per minute. But if a fight occurs, it will consume varying amounts of chakra depending on the situation. The more complex the external situation is, the higher the requirements for Sharingan, the greater the chakra is consumed, and vice versa. In addition, taking the initiative to activate the Sharingan's ability, or using the Sharingan to perform illusions, will consume additional chakra. In other words, if he does nothing, he can turn on the Sharingan all day without any pressure, but if a high-intensity battle occurs, he might run out of chakra in more than 10 or 20 minutes. However, Qing Ming estimated that he would not put himself in such a dangerous place. After talking about the consumption of Sharingan, let's talk about ways to improve its proficiency. First of all, it is worth being happy that the spiritual art of reflecting the heart is still effective. Even because the Sharingan has awakened, the spirit of heart reflection no longer needs to be as before. It takes dozens of proficiency to drive Sharingan forward a little. Now, just accumulate the proficiency of the soul reflecting technique to increase his Sharingan's proficiency. If it were just like this, Qing Ming wouldn't be too happy. Because of the proficiency of practicing the heart reflection technique of 10 points, it requires a full consumption of 1700 chakra. And the chakra he can use every day is only around 3500 o'clock. In other words, he can only accumulate at most 2 points of Sharingan proficiency every day. The single Kwiu Sharingan evolved into a double Kwiu, but it required a full 1000 point of proficiency, that is, 500 days, 1 year and 4 months. Qing Ming obviously couldn't wait for such a long time. Fortunately, this is more than this method to improve the proficiency of Sharingan. During the process of testing Sharingan consumption, Qing Ming discovered that continuously opening Sharingan can also promote the evolution of Sharingan. Expressed on the panel, proficiency increases with the opening time of Sharingan. So Qing Ming immediately started the test and finally concluded that every 5 hours of Sharingan opened up can give him a little proficiency. And this requires only 300 chakra points, which is more than 4/5 less than the 1700 points of the Science of Hearts. If we calculate according to this, his Sharingan proficiency should not be only 30 points. The reason for this is very simple, that is, there are only 24 hours a day. In addition to eating and sleeping, he can only have more than 10 hours of proficiency. It is precisely because of this that he only accumulated 29 o'clock proficiency in 7 days. This is because the soul reflecting art contributed 8 points, and no one disturbed him these days, so he could open the Sharingan for the longest time. Otherwise, this number may be smaller. Therefore, the practice of the art of reflecting the heart cannot be interrupted. As long as he does not intend to expose the existence of the Sharingan, he must increase the level of the soul reflecting technique. Only in this way can we accumulate the proficiency of Sharingan more quickly and evolve into a double magma Sharingan. However, this step cannot be rushed. In a few days, he will go to the battlefield. But the methods he currently possesses against the enemy are really a bit single. So, Qing Ming plans to enrich his skill bar in the past few days. First of all, it is the instant body technique. As a means of saving your life, this cannot be delayed anymore. He must push his proficiency before going to the battlefield to fight with others in person, so that he can successfully perform it when needed. Secondly, he is also preparing to get started with the other 2 ninja techniques left by his predecessor's parents: Fire Escape, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique, and Fire Escape, Dragon Fire Technique. The former allows him to have group attack methods so that he will not be at a loss when facing multiple enemies. The latter allows him to have the means to attack the enemy in a medium distance. And there is illusion. Since the Sharingan has awakened, illusion is naturally indispensable. The combination of these two can achieve the effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. At present, he knows only one illusion, namely the spirit of reflecting the heart. But the main function of this technique is to assist the evolution of Sharingan. Using it to deal with the enemy is really a bit embarrassing. Just so happened that the predecessor's parents left behind another illusion, the magic Yakahong technique. This technique is not only a serious illusion, but also an illusion specially developed for the Sharingan. Qing Ming just happened to be able to learn. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 29 Race Against Time. Ziyin Shu Chou Mao Yin, Fire Escape Phoenix Yin's Fire Art. Single quote. Qing Ming's hands flew around, like a butterfly, forming 6 handprints in succession, then took a deep breath, and then spit out violently. The next moment, of flames flew out of his mouth, like seeds of imitations, shooting towards the 7 or 8 big trees in front of him. Sharingan. Single quote. With a thought, Qing Ming opened the Sharingan. In an instant, his pupils turned blood red, and a pitch-black magma appeared in it, spinning rapidly like a windmill. With the powerful insight brought by the Sharingan, Qing Ming controlled the flames and flew across to different big trees. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions sounded. I saw that after a series of irregular flying, the flames bombarded several big trees accurately. The whole process is very visually impactful. It's not that Qing Ming deliberately showed off his skills and made the scene so gorgeous. Instead, the key point of this technique is to combine the real and real, use dazzling attacks to cover up the real intention, thereby giving the opponent a fatal blow. Even, to be more extreme, you can also attack with shuriken. As soon as he thought of this, Qing Ming made a seal again. The moment he used the ninjutsu, he took out several shurikens and threw them out quickly. The flame hit the big tree again, but one step faster than the flame was the shuriken hidden in it. The shuriken, which was burned red by the high temperature, flew out and hit the trunk of the big tree, instantly burning the nearby bark to black. It can be imagined how the flesh and blood body can resist such an attack when it falls on a person. I'm afraid you will fall seriously injured and fall to the ground in an instant, or even lose your life directly. Who said that fire escape can't kill anyone? With physical and magic attacks combined, it is not easy for anyone to get hit. The only shameful thing is that this attack method is a waste of shuriken. Basically, the shuriken was ruined once, and there was no value for recycling. However, the capacity of the ninja pack is limited. Qing Ming cannot carry too many shurikens anytime and anywhere, so this move must not be easily moved until the critical moment. Retracting his thoughts, Qing Ming no longer thought much, and with a thought, he opened the proficiency panel. The next moment, a familiar light blue light curtain appeared. Name: Uchiha Aomi. Age: 11 years old. Physical constitution. 7. Spirit. 9. Chakra. 1208 3018 right pointing arrow 3210. Bloodline. Sharingan single Gochu 31 thousandths right pointing arrow 51 thousandths. Skill. Chakra refining. LV3 322 1 thousandths right pointing arrow LV3 346 1 thousandths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball. LV1 52 hundredths. Fire escape Phoenix immortal fire art. LV1 5 200ths. Fire escape dragon fire art. LV1 1 200th. Magic the art of shackles. LV1 1 200th. Instant body technique. LV1 10 200ths. The art of reflecting the heart. LV3 683 1 thousandths. Throwing tools. LV3 1 1,000th right pointing arrow LV3 61 thousandths. Chakra control. LV3 102 1 thousandths. 3 body techniques. LV3 0 over 0. Basic physical skills. LV3 0 over 0. At this time, it had been 10 days since he opened his eyes, and it had been 3 days since he began to practice the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire art. Thanks to the early introduction of the Fire Escape High Fireball art, he practiced the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire art, which can be said to be 1,000 miles a day. Because the two ninjutsu have similarities, they only repeated it about 30 times, and his Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire technique accumulated 100 points of proficiency, and successfully got started, and promoted from LV0 to LV1. This process consumed him about 2,500 chakra. It was originally going to cost 3,000 points, but LV3 102 1,000ths chakra control saved him 15.5% of the chakra. So it became 2,500 points. In addition, it is the Fire Escape Dragon Fire art. Because he has successively learned the Fire Escape How Fireball technique and the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire technique, Qing Ming has a deeper understanding of the fire escape itself. In this process, I subtly grasped some of the fur related to the morphological changes and properties of chakra in the fire attribute. And any fire escape ninjutsu cannot be separated from these two. Therefore, when Qing Ming practiced the Fire Escape Dragon Fire art, he also achieved twice the result with half the effort. After almost 40 trials, I accumulated enough proficiency to successfully get it started. During the practice period, he spent about 3,000 chakra points in minus the chakra saved by the chakra control. In this way, the two ninjutsu combined to consume 5,500 chakra points. In 3 days, the total amount of chakra he was able to use was around 10,000 points. So, he used the remaining chakra to practice the magic shackle technique and instant body technique. The former is an illusion tailored for Sharingan. Qing Ming was very easy to learn. He only repeated it about 20 times and spent more than 1,000 chakra to get started. During this period, Qing Ming also discovered that the proficiency of Sharingan has increased faster. So, Qing Ming began to analyze and test the key points. Finally, after strengthening control of the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire technique and Fire Escape Dragon Fire technique, Qing Ming figured out the reason. In fact, the reason is very simple, that is, use advance and abandonment. The higher the intensity of the Sharingan, the faster it will accumulate proficiency. How fast is it? After Qing Ming's estimate, it was probably twice the time for merely eye-opening. Unfortunately, this method consumes extremely chakra. On average, it takes a full 1,000 chakra to improve a little proficiency. Although it is less than 1,700 points of the art of reflecting the heart, it is far more than 300 points of time spent. With his current chakra volume, it is not enough to support such consumption. Perhaps only after he has enough chakra can he use this luxurious way to improve the proficiency of Sharingan. And this requires that his level of chakra refining cannot be lowered. With his current physical and mental attributes, as long as the level of chakra refining is increased, the amount of chakra that can be used every day will inevitably increase greatly. At that time, you can try to improve your proficiency in this way. In addition, this method has another advantage, that is, it can simultaneously improve the proficiency of the skills that cooperate with it. With the saliva at the corner of his mouth, Qing Ming retracted his thoughts and focused on the momentum technique. Because it is just AD level ninjutsu, it can be used once in a minimum of 30 chakra, so Qing Ming can easily get his liver into it. However, after LV1, its minimum chakra consumption has risen to 50 points. Even if you want to move longer distances, the chakra consumption will be further increased. However, when you are proficient, Qing Ming will definitely not do this. For him, as long as he can gain proficiency, on this basis, it is a waste to use a little more chakra. Step. A subtle footsteps came. Qing Ming's ears moved slightly, and then he quickly completed the seal. He opened his mouth and spit out a huge fireball. The fireball flew out quickly and hit the big trees in front of them. Then it exploded with a bang, and the surging flames instantly swallowed everything around them. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 30 Departure. Fucking sex. A burst of applause came. Qing Ming looked at him and saw a figure appearing not far away, then flashing and coming to him. Uncle Tribe. Seeing the visitor, Qing Ming bowed slightly. The person who came is named Uchiha Feihuo, who is 18 years old this year. The Sharingan has opened its 3 Guyu, and is a genius figure who has become famous recently by the Uchiha clan. Unfortunately, Qing Ming had never heard of this name in his previous life. I don't know if I died in this ninja world war, or in a mission, or if I was raised by Itachi's hand and fell into an unknown corpse. Unknown that Qing Ming was slandering him in his heart, Uchiha Feihuo nodded, glanced around, and said casually, "You are good at practicing the art of Haohuo Ball." After saying that, without waiting for Qing Ming to say anything, he took out a scroll from his arms and threw it to Qing Ming, and said, "Hey, this is the shadow clone technique you applied for. Remember not to spread it." That's right, in addition to the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire Art, and Fire Escape Dragon Fire Art, as well as the Magic Jahong Art, and Instant Body Art, he is also preparing to learn the Shadow Clan Art. Any ninja from the Uchiha clan who graduated from the ninja school and became a shinin can apply for a ninjutsu, illusion or physical technique to the clan. This is the benefit of the Uchiha clan. Qing Ming has not received this benefit since graduation. I am about to go to the battlefield, but I don't know when I come back next time, so I naturally have to get this benefit first. Moreover, he really wants to learn this ninjutsu. Because as the skill level increases, the proficiency required for each skill will increase and it is really hard to take care of him alone. As a physical clone, the shadow clone can perfectly transmit experience and memory to the body, without worrying about not being able to help improve proficiency. But the efficiency is still unknown. After taking the scroll, Qing Ming roughly read it. After confirming that there was no problem, he thanked Uchiha Feihuo. Uchiha Feihuo waved his hand, and without stopping for a few times, he left the place. Qing Ming sat on the ground and carefully looked through the scroll in his hand. After a long time, he confirmed that the other party had indeed left, and then he put away the scroll. No wonder Qing Ming is so cautious. It's because he has too many secrets. Any exposure will bring him endless trouble. Qing Ming just wanted to make a quiet liver progress and didn't want to be involved in any trouble. Therefore, we must be cautious and cautious. Otherwise, he would not immediately use the Fire Escape Rao Fireball technique, after he noticed that someone was approaching, and wiped out all the surrounding corpses. You should know that there is a difference in the effect of performing ninjutsu without Sharingan assistance. Just like the Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire technique, Uchiha Ninja without eyes can indeed be used, but it will never be so accurate as he is. Ordinary people may not be able to see such subtle differences, but the experienced Uchiha Ninja, especially the eyes-opened Uchiha Ninja, can basically discover the tricks in it just by taking a glance. By then, the secret of his awakening of the Sharingan might be exposed. Qing Ming didn't want to bet on whether the person who came was Uchiha Ninja, nor did he want to bet on whether the other party could see it, so it would be better to burn it out with one fire. Not only the traces of cultivation, but even when you go out on weekdays, Qing Ming will not let his own chakra volume exceed 2000 points. You should know that whether it is the Sharingan, the rolling eyes, or some perceptual ninjas, they can judge the amount of chakra in the ninja's body to a certain extent. Then use this to determine the strength of the ninja. 2000 points are a safety line. If it is lower than this value, he may not be able to cope with the emergencies. Above this value, it may attract the attention of others. Although Qing Ming didn't think that someone would pay special attention to him, he still did not restore the chakra to more than 2000 points just in case. Anyway, he needs a lot of chakra to brush his proficiency, so he easily controls the amount of chakra in his body. Now, the only thing to consider is whether he should also maintain this state when he set off with the team to the land of rain in a few days. It can be imagined that there will inevitably be no peace along the way. Perhaps in the territory of the Fire Kingdom, the enemy dare not attack unscrupulously, but after leaving the kingdom of the Fire Kingdom and entering the territory of the Rain Kingdom, then it may be possible. At that time, if you fall into a trap because of insufficient chakra, the joke will be a big deal. Standing there in the same place and pondered for a while, Qing Ming suddenly sighed and said to himself, "Oh. Now I just hope that there will be more people when I set off, otherwise it will be a bit difficult." After saying that, he stopped thinking about it and began to seize the time to practice the instant body technique. As a predetermined means of escape, Qing Ming must draw it to a higher level. Shifted. Time comes 3 days later. That morning, Qing Ming was dressed neatly, tied a ninja bag, tied a forehead protection, and carried a backpack, and walked out of the door. Through the streets and alleys, Qing Ming rushed to the gathering place. Along the way, you can see 1 or 2 ninjas dressed similar to him from time to time, carrying large and small bags to the direction of Konoha Gate. Yes, today is the day to go. They have to go to the entrance of Konoha village to gather first, then count the number of people, and finally confirm that it is correct, and then rush to the battlefield of the Rain Country together. A few minutes later, Qing Ming came to the entrance of Konoha village. At this time, many people had gathered here. In addition, dozens of chariots are arranged together, either pulling food or loading utensils, all of which are full. These are all things that they want to asterisk 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 to the frontline battlefield together. Whether in the past life or this life, when the war ends, the test is logistical ability. If the logistics cannot keep up, the war will be impossible. Therefore, in addition to the rookies like them, there are many Shangnin who come from family members. This made Qing Ming breathe a little relieved. After all, there are only 2,000 chakra in his body and he cannot exert all his strength. Yes, Qing Ming finally decided to maintain his previous state. He didn't believe that he was so unlucky, and would just encounter an enemy that could not be solved by 2,000 chakra. If he really encountered it, he would be respectful to run away first. Qing Ming, here. Just as Qing Ming looked around, Ryosuke's voice came from the crowd. Qing Ming Shun looked over and saw him standing in front of a cart with Furukawa, waving at him, so he walked over quickly. Seeing Qing Ming coming, before Ryosuke could speak, Furukawa said first, "How is the instant body technique practice?" Yes, Qing Ming's instant body technique was learned from Fukugawa. There was no such technique in the ninjutsu left by his predecessor's parents. He did not want to obtain it from the clan and wasted his precious opportunity on a mere D-level ninjutsu. So, he hit Furukawa. The leader of the team, Yunin, had an obligation to teach his students ninjutsu, so after hearing Qing Ming's request, Furukawa did not think much about it and taught him this ninjutsu. Logically speaking, this technique will only be taught after Qing Ming is promoted to Zongren. But Furukawa has seen Qing Ming performing C-level ninjutsu, fire escape and how fireball technique, and knows that AD-level ninjutsu is nothing to him. So, there is no stuck. Now, a few days have passed, and I heard Furukawa ask again. Qing Ming secretly opened the panel and glanced. The instant body technique on it had changed from LV1 10/200ths to LV2 15/500ths. With this level of proficiency, he can use it in less than a second. However, Qing Ming, in his usual low-key style, just replied, "I have learned it." Is that so? Hearing Qing Ming's answer, Fukugawa refused to comment. Chapter 31 Ambush. Qing Ming, have you really learned it? Furukawa did not reveal anything to Qing Ming's answer, but Ryosuke was unable to remain calm. Although he had long known that there was a certain gap in learning ability between him and Qing Ming, the young man's unyielding personality still made him unwilling to fall behind. Previously, when Furukawa taught Qing Ming's instant body technique, he did not avoid him. Therefore, he learned as well. In the past few days, he has practiced hard and finally mastered some tricks. He may not be able to use them in fierce battles, but it is still no problem to use them in full in normal times. Although this cannot be considered as having learned this technique, it is also very proud. He thought Qing Ming's progress would be similar to his. Even if he was ahead, he would be a little ahead at most, but the facts were very different. He has been a companion for several months, and he has a certain understanding of Qing Ming's way of speaking and style of doing things. The other party may deliberately lower his strength, but he will never exaggerate it. In other words, if Qing Ming learned it, his true level must be far more than this. Therefore, Ryosuke's mood was extremely complicated, and he failed to catch up again. For a moment, his body was filled with the aura of negative energy. Qing Ming keenly noticed his emotional changes, and just thought about it and guessed the reason. However, he did not express his consolation because this is the truth. Don't want to continue to get entangled in this issue, Qing Ming then asked, "Where is Jingzi? Haven't you come here yet? You should know that in the past, Shizuko Mizutani was the first to arrive. And now." Qing Ming looked at the time. It was about to reach the last time of the gathering, but the other party had not come yet. This surprised Qing Ming. Is there something wrong? Qing Ming said in his heart. I don't know. On the side, Ryosuke replied weakly. As he spoke, he looked at the entrance of the village and happened to see Shizuko Mizutani who was rushing to see. So, he waved and shouted, "Shizi, here." Hearing his call, Shizuko Mizutani quickly turned her head, and after seeing them clearly, she forced a smile, and then walked over quickly. Shika, why are you so late today? Is there anything wrong? Before Mizutani Shizuko could get closer, Ryosuke asked. Hearing this, Shizuko Mizutani shook her head, squeezed out a reluctant smile again, and said, "It's okay, I'm just getting up late." Is that true? Ryosuke touched his chin and said seriously, "Then you should set an alarm clock so that you won't oversleep, just like me." Looking at the nagging Ryosuke, Qing Ming didn't know whether the other party was really big or was deliberately relieved of Shizuko Mizutani's pressure. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Shizuko Mizutani came here at this time, and it was not so much that she overslept. The other party's red and swollen eyes meant that he had just cried not long ago. Contact the fact that they are about to go to the battlefield, it is not difficult to guess that this is left when they say goodbye to their family. This also made Qing Ming deeply realize that this is a real world. Here, war is war, and death will not be taken for granted just because of a slogan or two. Ninjas are also human beings. They have their own feelings, family, friends and lives. Once they die, they will affect a large number of people. Therefore, there are many people who are afraid of war, but they are bound by a series of rules and ideas and can only be forced to accept it. Why? This is indeed a twisted world. Single quote. A sigh inwardly, Qing Ming no longer thought about it and began to wait for the team to set off with peace of mind. Time passes by minute by minute. After the team was assembled, the third generation of Naruto, Sarutobi Hiruzen appeared in front of everyone. After that, there was a passionate speech. I have to say that the other party's words were very inflammatory. After a speech, the young middle and lower mind were so passionate that he could not help but go to the battlefield to kill the enemy immediately. Even Shizuko Mizutani, who was in a bad mood, smiled a little after listening to the other party's words. Only those young ninjas kept a serious face throughout the whole process, and seemed to have no reaction to his words. But, thinking about it, if you can become a supreme ninja, no one who is not fighting in the sea of corpses and blood, the firmness of your will can be shaken by a few words. If you want to mobilize their enthusiasm, you must either use actual interests to bind them or use righteousness to drive them. Otherwise, why do you think that if you are empty-handed? Just because you are Naruto. Naruto was not chosen by everyone. Well, maybe, probably. Qing Ming shook his head and no longer thought about it. These things are still far away from him for the time being, and he is unwilling to participate in these things. After all, the ninja world is still a world where strength is respected. As long as you have enough strength, even if you don't understand anything, you can speak with your fists. Who doesn't like you? Just put one punch down, how can you think so much? Therefore, improving strength is the king. A few minutes later. After the speech, the team started to set off. Qing Ming roughly counted, there were about 30, and there were 60 or 70 special sects. As for Zongren and Shuren, the combined total is enough for more than 300 people. With such a large team, it is naturally impossible to go too fast. What's more, there are dozens of material vehicles. Therefore, it took them 2 weeks to get out of the territory of the Kingdom of Fire and enter the battlefield of the Kingdom of Rain. As soon as they enter the country of rain, they are greeted by continuous drizzle. Often, the sun cannot be seen once in 3 or 2 days. Therefore, the team is moving even slower. It was nearly a week later. They arrived at a canyon, walked through this canyon, and walked dozens of miles further, and they were Konoha's base camp in the rain country. Their destination for this trip was where, and these dozens of trucks of supplies were also sent there. Qing Ming looked at the deep canyon ahead and his eyebrow jumped. Such a terrain is a rookie on the battlefield, and Qing Ming doesn't believe that those Shangnan will not be able to see it. Then why go here? Single quote. Apart from having to, Qing meditation could not come up with other reasons. In other words, Konoha's situation on the battlefield of the rain country was far less optimistic than he imagined, otherwise such a supply channel would not have been retained. Fortunately, Konoha Kannon is not a good person to eat, so he slowed down the team before entering the canyon. At the same time, several teams were sent to search for the cliffs in front and on both sides for any enemy ambush. As time passes by minute, the team is moving forward slowly. Suddenly, a huge explosion came from the rock wall in the distance, and a red flame could be seen rising. It's the detonation talisman, there is an ambush. In the team, someone shouted, and the crowd suddenly became panicked. Fortunately, the Supreme Ninja spoke out in time, which stopped the chaos. Chapter 32 The First Battle. Everyone, set up a defensive formation. A loud shout came from the front of the team. Hearing this, the Zongnan in the team immediately took action and organized the shonen around him to defend according to the principle of proximity. And those who were particularly arrogant also began to act according to their own areas of expertise. Those who were good at fighting immediately rushed out of the team and went to support the ninjas responsible for reconnaissance. Those who are good at perception sit down on the spot and start to perform ninjutsu to detect the surrounding situation to prevent anyone from raiding. Others also have their own jobs. Everything is so efficient, as if you have been rehearsing dozens or hundreds of times, and everyone can find their place. Only Qing Ming, the newcomer, know nothing, and can only follow the instructions of the Zongnan around him, like puppets one by one. This feeling is very bad, just like your own destiny is controlled by others' thoughts, without any sense of security. Despite this, Qing Ming still did not act rashly. Now this scene is not something that he can only show up with a stern. In the past 3 weeks, due to the crowded eyes and the rush to travel, he did not have much time to improve his proficiency. He compressed his rest time as much as possible every day, and squeezed out at most 3 or 4 hours of practice. Therefore, the chakra that can be used is only around 1,500 points. In order not to attract attention, these chakras were used by him in the practice of spiritual of heart reflection, which increased his proficiency from LV3 683 1,000ths to LV3 875 1,000ths. The improvement of his proficiency in Sharingan has also improved by 19 points, becoming 69 1,000ths. Although the improvement is very small, no matter how small the mosquito legs are, they are still fleshy, so Qing Ming did not dislike it. In addition, it is chakra refining. After 3 or 4 hours of practice every day, and 3 days before departure, his proficiency has changed from LV3 346 1,000ths to LV3 454 1,000ths. Affected by this, his chakra cap increased by 864 points, and now it has reached 4,074 points. At this point, he felt the limits of his body again. Qing Ming estimated that when his chakra limit increases to around 5,000 points, he should be stagnant. However, this is much better than he expected. Boom. Just as Qing Ming was wandering outside the sky, a huge explosion suddenly came from the cliff on the side, followed by the sound of tinging metal collision. Qing Ming looked up and saw several ninjas in Iwahimura cannon uniforms fighting Konoha cannon, and beside them, there were more than a dozen Iwahimura cannon. Sharingan. Single quote. Seeing that no one around paid attention to him, Qing Ming quietly opened the Sharingan. In an instant, everything in front of me became clear. In sight, the Iwai hidden Zongnin took advantage of the fact that the Konoha Ninnin was entangled, and quickly completed the seal, and then slapped the rock wall together. Seeing this, Qing Ming seemed to have thought of something, and said something intimately. He quickly closed the Sharingan, grabbed the 2 companions beside him, and jumped back. Suddenly being ripped off like this, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani were both unsteady and staggered on the spot. However, out of trust in their peers, they did not struggle. And the next moment they retreated, a sound of rock cracking came from the cliffs on the side. Then, countless pieces of gravel of large and small fell from the sky, like a meteorite rain, and they all hit the area where Qing Ming was. Suddenly, there was chaos below. Although ninjas are not ordinary people, their defense is not much stronger than ordinary people. Even if they are hit by such falling rocks, they will be seriously injured even if they don't die. So, everyone is trying their best to dodge. After counting breaths, the dust settled. The drizzle hit the face, leaving traces of mud. Qing Ming, thanks to you. Ryosuke looked at the mess in the field and said sincerely. The fall of the rock just now may not be anything to the Zongnin, but it is a bit dangerous for them, especially the newborn. Now, there are more than a dozen sage ninjas lying in the pile of gravels around. I don't know if they are dead or alive. Single quote. However, Qing Ming and others have no time to pay attention to the lives and deaths of these people for the time being, because their troubles have come. I saw that nearly 100 rock ninjas appeared in front of and behind the canyon and surrounded them from both sides. If we only look at the quantity, they still have an absolute advantage, but if we look at the quality, it will be much worse. Iwagen obviously came prepared this time. There was no shinen in the team at all, and they were all elites above Zongnin. And what about them? The team of nearly 400 people, the ninja accounts for half of them, and many of them are newbies like Qing Ming who have just graduated not long ago. It can be said that this battle is extremely dangerous. Now I just hope that the frontline base camp can react as soon as possible, otherwise. Qing Ming glanced at the 2 sides of the rock walls that were still fighting on both sides, took a deep breath, and whispered, "You two don't want to stay too far away from me later." Upon hearing this, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani's nervous hearts were slightly calmed down. Qing Ming still wants to take care of these 2 companions within his ability. After spending nearly 4 months together, Qing Ming didn't want them to die just like this. Of course, if things cannot be done, he will not force it. Anyway, he had been mentally prepared as early as the beginning of the team. Time passed by minute, and the field was quiet, and everyone was ready for battle. Finally, just as the 2 sides were about to contact, someone in the crowd called out a kill. In an instant, the entire battlefield was noisy, with roars, wails, weapons collisions, ninjutsu bombardment, and all kinds of sounds were endless. The sound of kill was like turning on a switch, causing chaos in the entire battlefield. Although Qing Ming and others were located near the center of the team, they were attacked by rockfalls and their formation was relatively scattered, so they were directly targeted. I saw that more than 30 Iwaken Zongnin directly used Earth Escape and quickly approached here from the ground. Judging from their appearance, they obviously need to bloom in the center and divide the entire convoy into 2 parts, thereby expanding the scope of the 2 sides' engagement and causing the greatest damage to Konoha ninja. Qing Ming carefully felt the position of one of them, quietly took out a kunai, and when the moment he jumped out of the earth, he threw out the kunai in his hand. Ah! A scream came. I saw that the Iwa ninja had just drilled out of the earth and a kunai hit his eyes accurately. Blood slid down his cheeks, and the other party wanted to see who was attacking him, but the next moment, another kunai attacked and nailed into his heart. After suffering this fatal blow, the Yan closed his eyes unwillingly. Qing Ming's process of killing this iron-hidden Zongnin seems simple, but it is not. First of all, he needs to have a precise grasp of the other party's position, and only in this way can he **** the kunai as soon as possible. Secondly, the accuracy of kunai throwing is very high, otherwise the effect of killing with one blow cannot be achieved. If the opponent has room to fight back, it will be difficult to kill. Finally, you must have strong psychological qualities and not be disturbed by external objects. Just like now, another Iwaki Zongnin has already fought with Ryosuke. If he had chosen to block the other party just now, he would definitely not be able to kill the Iwaki in front of him with one blow. Chapter 33 Skipping. Black Stone. Seeing that the Iwai Hidden Zongrin was killed by Qing Ming, Iwai Hidden's eyes were rippled off when he was fighting with Ryosuke. After shouting, he forced Ryosuke to retreat and rushed towards Qing Ming. Seeing this, Qing Ming did not dodge or avoid it. He kicked the ground with his feet and ran towards the other side. Ding! The two kunai collided together, making a crisp sound of metal collision. The two of them used force at the same time, without any violent friction, and sparks burst out. Looking at the anger in the other person's eyes at close range, Qing Ming's expression did not change at all. Perhaps the other party has a close relationship with the Iwa ninja who was killed by him and is angry about his death, but the murderer will always kill him. Since you are on the battlefield, you must have the awareness of death. It is impossible that everyone else will take his life. Qing Ming is still indifferent. Therefore, Qing Ming has no psychological burden for killing the other party. Drink. All kinds of thoughts flashed through my mind. Qing Ming shouted softly, swept away the kunai of Yan Nin in front of him. After taking a slight step back, he bullied himself again. Ding ding dang dang. The harsh metal collision sounded one after another. Qing Ming made the kuwu in his hand tight and the various combat skills included in the basic physics were fully utilized by him. Although he does not have any advanced skills, he is still in line with the chunin in front of him. Get the distance again. The two stood still. Ichiro looked at Qing Ming a few steps away, and returned to his mind, which had just been stimulated by his friend's death. Although I don't want to admit it, the young shinin in front of me is indeed qualified to make him serious. Not to mention anything else, in terms of close combat, the other party is not much weaker than him. Even if he hadn't had more practical experience and had a considerable advantage in the size of the adult, he might have suffered a little loss in the battle just now. And just as Ichiro was observing Qing Ming was also observing the other party. Through the battle just now, he had roughly figured out the opponent's strength. Although both sides had not used other means, Qing Ming was sure that the opponent was not his opponent. But, Qing Ming glanced around him in a hidden way. At this time, the battlefield was in chaos and there were sounds of fighting everywhere. Although Konoha has an advantage in number of people, the number of people is also too large, so those Zongrin cannot let go. The canyon area is not spacious, and those Iwahiden Zongnin are prepared and do not fight head-on with Konoha Zongnin. As soon as they have the chance, they will get into the crowd and use the numerous Konoha Shizuan as a shield. In this way, the two sides mixed together. Konoha Zongrin was afraid of the weapon, and he did not dare to use the powerful ninjutsu at all, and even the detonation talisman was used with caution. On the contrary, these Iwa ninja elites don't have so many concerns. Anyway, the ninja in the field does not pose much threat to them, so they can wander around and cause damage to them with their rich combat experience. In this way, one side is bound by his hands and feet, and the other side is unscrupulous, and the result can be imagined. Qing Ming didn't know about other places, but as far as the nearby ones were concerned, he had already fallen down several times. Therefore, even if you have the confidence to solve the problem of Ion Ninja in front of you, Qing Ming did not intend to do this, because it would only cause him more trouble. As the saying goes, if a tree is beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy it. Geniuses are often targeted by ninjas in each village. Killing Black Stone can also be explained by sneak attacks, but if I kill Ichiro head-on, it would be a bit unreasonable. Qing Ming didn't want to be the first to be a leader, he just wanted to survive steadily until the end of the war. So, just maintain a balanced power next. Although Konoha was caught off guard, she would not be wiped out. After all, this place is not far from Konoha's base camp in the Rain Country, and abnormalities may be found there at any time and then provide support. At that time, if Yenian village does not retreat in time, the situation will reverse. The purpose of Iwahiden village is to take advantage of it and weaken Konoha's reserve power as much as possible, rather than fighting to the death with Konoha. Therefore, Qing Ming estimated that these rocks could not stay here for a long time. All he has to do is to survive this period of time. If you have to survive this period of time, you cannot let the Iwaruan in front of you be idle. As soon as I thought of this, Qing Ming no longer wasted time. He raised his hand to complete the seal and used the instant body technique. He came to Ichiro Ishii and fought with him like a gust of wind. D-level ninjutsu instant body technique can only show an effect similar to television when facing someone with lower strength than you. But when facing opponents at the same level or even at higher levels, their reaction ability can already see this level of television. So in the eyes, the speed is faster. Therefore, even though Qing Ming used the momentum technique, Ichiro still reacted and made a blocking action. In this way, Ichiro was forced to interrupt the process of performing ninjutsu. That's right, Ichiro Ishima planned to use ninjutsu to deal with Qing Ming. Since he is sure that his melee ability is not inferior to him, he naturally has to play to his strengths and avoid his weaknesses and use the ninjutsu that Zongnan is better at attacking. Unfortunately, Qing Ming noticed this idea, so he had no chance. Not only that there is no now, but the same goes for the future. Regardless of whether he pretends to retreat or forcibly distance himself, Qing Ming will interrupt as long as there are signs of using ninjutsu in a seal. Either close combat or ninja greeting, it will give him no chance to perform ninjutsu at all. This is how the warriors of the Iron Country can occupy a place in the ninja world. Although Qing Ming does not have the strength and speed of the warriors, there is no problem in suppressing an Iwai Zongnan with average strength in LV3s, basic body technique, combined with LV3s, nin device throwing. What's more, there were Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani on the side to support him. Although the strength of these two people cannot threaten Ichiichiro, occasionally throwing one or two shurikens can still interfere with each other. In this way, Ichiichiro could only be forced to fight Qing Ming. Time passes by minute by minute. The battle between the periphery and the cliffs is still going on, and the noise caused between the Shangnan is getting bigger and bigger. From time to time, aftermath of battle swept over, forcing everyone in the field to dodge. Even Ichiichiro sees the opportunity because of this. I saw him avoiding the falling rocks above his head, raising his hands, and quickly completing the seal. He used the iconic ninjutsu of Iwahidang village, the earth escape into Takarakura in his breath. Looking at the densely populated spikes on the ground, Qing Ming did not hesitate at all. He immediately took Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani backed up and narrowly avoided this wave of attacks. Before he could launch a second wave of attack, Qing Ming let go of Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani. Then, he touched his palm and he held the three kunai in his palm. Then he threw it casually and shot it accurately at Ichiichiro's throat, heart and lower abdomen. Looking at the rapid asterisk of Cuba, Ichiichiro's heart broke out and quickly flashed to the side. During the previous battle, the kunai thrown by Qing Ming left a deep impression on him, and now he naturally dare not be careless. If Qing Ming hadn't had any abnormalities in his eyes, he would have thought the other party had awakened the Sharingan. That's right, Ichiichiro had long recognized his Uchiha ninja through the Uchiha clan emblem on Qing Ming's body. In his impression, only the eyes-opened Uchiha ninja can make kunai so useless at such a young age. Unfortunately, Qing Ming was cautious and did not reveal the existence of Sharingan from beginning to end. Chapter 34 Kill. Swish, swish, swish. Ichiichiro just avoided Kuma's attack when several shurikens flew over, vaguely sealing the space where he dodged. As a last resort, Ichiichiro could only wave the kunai in his hand to block the incoming shuriken. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qing Ming used the momentary body technique again and approached Ichiichiro at an extremely fast speed. After that, the development of things was the same as before, the two of them got entangled again. Ryosuke and Mizutani Shizuko kept in mind Ao Ming's instructions and stayed around him all the time, cooperating with Ichiichiro's actions. Damn it! Looking at Qing Ming, who was becoming more and more skillful in fighting, Ichiichiro felt that he had become the enemy's coach, and he was full of anger and didn't know how to vent. At this moment, a kunai attacked from the side. But the target of the attack was not Ichiichiro, but Ao Ming who was immersed in the battle. Careful! Careful! Two warning sounds came almost at the same time. Qing Ming felt a chill in his heart and quickly retreated backwards. Swoosh! A kunai flew past the air and flew past his eyes. Qing Ming Yuguang glanced at the direction where Kuwu was shooting, and saw a middle-aged Iwa ninja running towards him, and behind him, a Konoha Zongnan was chasing him. The first person to warn was Konoha Chunin. Qing Ming recognized the other party, and he was the Zongren who organized them to defend not long ago. The other party had been putting out fires everywhere before, but now he has saved him. Only. Qing Ming looked at the middle-aged iron ninja who had just attacked him, and his face was not very good. If the other party hadn't done this trick, he would still have combat experience on Ichiro Ishii. Hey, it's so good to ask me to take action. Single quote. Yes, Qing Ming has made plans to take action. The other party obviously has his eyes on him. In this case, if you paddle again, what is waiting for him is to be besieged. Since that's the case, we can only start first. As for the exposure of strength, then expose it. With a thought, Qing Ming took out 6 shurikens and threw them out violently. 3 of them are used to block the opponent's retreat, 3 are predicting their position, and the remaining 2 are directly attacking the vital points of their chest and abdomen. The middle-aged iron ninja did not seem to have expected Qing Ming's counterattack to be so decisive, so his response was a little stiff. After such delay, Konoha Nakanori arrived at the rear and fought with him in a group. However, everything has its advantages and disadvantages. Qing Ming prevented the other party from approaching, but it also gave Ichiichiro a chance to breathe. Almost the moment he threw the shuriken, Ichiichiro threw kunai at him at the same time. Qing Ming couldn't block it, so he could only dodge it as much as possible. This flash gave Ichiichiro more time. So he saw that he quickly pulled open his body, completed the seal in the blink of an eye, and then slapped the ground, and performed ninjutsu, earth escape, and earth-splitting palm. In an instant, several cracks, a width of meter appeared, and with his palm as the center, it spread rapidly towards the location where Qing Ming was. During this period, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani tried to interfere, but because of insufficient combat experience, they did not seize the good opportunity, and the kuna and shuriken they threw were all lost. In the end, he successfully performed his ninjutsu. Feeling the earth shaking under his feet and looking at the cracks that were spreading towards him quickly, Qing Ming looked serious. He raised his hands, completed the seal at the fastest speed in his life, and performed the instant body technique. In the end, before the crack engulfed him, he relied on his speed advantage and left the ninjutsu range. I have to say that this kind of ninja that can cause earthquake effects is very unfriendly for ninjas who cannot fly. If Ichiro chakra was not limited and had not practiced this ninjutsu at home, Qing Ming would probably have even been a problem with standing, let alone running quickly. Fortunately, everything is over. Qing Ming looked at Ichiro who was constipated in the distance, and rushed over without any hesitation. And what arrived one step ahead of him was the 3 kunai thrown by him. Ichiro had sharp eyes. He saw the tied detonation talisman behind one of the kunai, so he immediately retreated to the back. Boom! A fire suddenly appeared and the detonation talisman exploded. A shock wave visible to the naked eye quickly spread around with the kunai. Such a huge movement made the surrounding battlefield quiet. However, Qing Ming ignored these things. Since he decided to take action, he would not hesitate at all. Under the cover of the detonating talisman flame, he approached Ichiro. Then, when he thought he was going to fight closely again, he suddenly stopped, his hands flew, and 6 seals of Zi Yin Shu Chou Mao Yin were formed in his breath. Taking a deep breath, gathered the fire escape chakra in his throat, and Qing Ming spitted it out violently. The next moment, fire like seeds of phoenix flower appeared one after another, flying towards Ichiro Ishii. Not to mention the effect of this ninjutsu, just in terms of the scene, it is definitely one of the best gorgeous things, perfectly in line with Uchiha's style. However, Ichiro didn't have the heart to appreciate this scene. When he saw Qing Ming's seal, he had an unknown premonition. Now, this premonition has come true, but he can only choose to dodge. Balls of flames flew over and Ichiro dodged left and right, but was finally not completely submerged by the flames. But injury is inevitable. When the flames went out, he saw that his clothes were burned in many parts and there were a few blisters on his face. This is Qing Ming's Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire technique, is not high, and the flames created are average, and the Sharingan assistance is not activated, so it cannot achieve accurate strikes, which makes the opponent only suffer minor injuries. Otherwise, if you don't even say that you can kill the other party directly, you can at least severely damage it. Fortunately, he has a backup plan. Before the chakra in the body was calmed down, Qing Ming began to seal again. Seeing this, Ichiro panicked and wanted to use ninjutsu to escape. But before he could move, a brutal mental power rushed into his mind, causing the scene of Qing Ming throwing kunwu to appear in front of him. Ichiro instinctively flashed to one side without having time to think about it. But the next moment, a heart-wrenching pain came from his chest. Ichiro looked down and saw a kunai being inserted into his heart. At the last moment of his life, Ichiro looked up at Qing Ming with difficulty. Seeing that his arm had not yet fallen, he immediately murmured, "Is it an illusion?" That's right, just now, Qing Ming used his illusion. However, it is not the magic Yakahong technique, but the heart reflection technique that is in name but not real. Magic, the art of Sharingan, requires Sharingan cooperation. Although Qing Ming intends to expose some strength, it does not include Sharingan. Therefore, this technique cannot be used naturally. Then there is only the sense of reflecting the heart. Although this technique is nameless but not real, and its main function is to assist the evolution of Sharingan, it actually has some illusion effects. It can disrupt the target senses to a certain extent and thus affect the target judgment. Just now, he asked Ichiro to see the illusion of throwing kunai in advance. After he dodged, he chose to take action. In the end, one-hit kill was completed. The reason why Ichiro was hit without resistance was entirely because Qing Ming had too high mastery of this technique. LV3 is the most proficient among all his skills. Although the effect displayed does not reach the level that A-level illusion should have, it will not be weaker than ordinary C-level illusion. It is normal for Ichiro Ishii to be attacked. After all, who would have thought that he was just a nasty man who mastered so many skills? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 35 Retreat. Swoosh. A kunai shot from behind. Qing Ming seemed to have eyes on his back, and his body slightly tilted, avoiding the sneak attack. Turning back and looking in the direction of Kuma's attack, Iwaki Junin gave up the 2 Konoha shinen who were being beaten by him and rushed straight toward this side. Not only him, but also Iwa Ninja also gave up his opponent and leaned towards him. Obviously, these two people planned to join forces to deal with him. Qing Ming had long expected this. When the middle-aged Iwa ninja attacked him before, he knew that he had entered the vision of these Iwa ninjas, and it would only be a matter of time before he was targeted. Since you can't avoid it, take the initiative to attack. Therefore, Qing Ming chose to kill Ichiichiro quickly. In order to interrupt the rhythm of these people. Just like now, as soon as Ichiichiro dies, the two people in front of him have to give up their goals and devote their energy to him. By doing this, Qing Ming seemed to have become the shield of these Konoha Shizunen, but if you think about it deeper, you will find that the risks he has suffered have not increased. Overall, it is even smaller. Because at the other party's pace, after these two people killed the target in their hands, they were likely to besiege him with Ichiichiro. Now, Ichiichiro has died, and the number of people besieging him has changed from 3 to 2, which has greatly reduced the risk. At the same time, the surviving Konoha Shinomizu will attract the attention of other nearby Iwa ninjas, thereby weakening the number of potential opponents for him. In this way, as long as he masters the rhythm, he will not have to face more enemies in a short period of time. All kinds of thoughts flashed through my mind. Qing Ming no longer wasted his time. He immediately took out his kunai and ran towards the two people on the other side. Seeing Qing Ming rushing straight towards him, the two Yanins didn't talk nonsense. After looking at each other, they also rushed towards Qing Ming, obviously intending to fight him in close combat. Generally speaking, as long as you are not a genius, the chakra in your body is very limited. Therefore, during battles, ninjutsu is usually not frequently used, especially in such a chaotic battlefield. Because no one knows whether an enemy will appear after the chakra is exhausted, and he will be killed. Therefore, every ninja is a careful calculation. Indeed, when Ao Ming fought with Ichiichiro just now, he showed his outstanding melee ability, but that was ultimately a fight alone. Now, these two Iwan ninjas joined forces, but they don't think Qing Ming will still be their opponent. So, when they saw Qing Ming getting closer and preparing for close combat, they did not choose to avoid it, but instead took the call on the spot. They even felt a little glad. After all, Qing Ming's process of using ninjutsu to kill Ichiichiro just now is still vivid in his mind. Although they didn't say it, they were still a little afraid in their hearts. Now, Qing Ming chose to fight in close combat, which was exactly what they wanted. They still don't believe it. Can Qing Ming fight too? The facts are just as they expected. Even though he practiced the basic physical skills to LV3, he had mastered all the skills and gained a wave of practical experience on Ichiichiro, Qing Ming still could not fight against two. Therefore, in just a short time, several scars appeared on his body. Fortunately, it is all skin trauma, which will not affect combat effectiveness for the time being. Ding, ding. Qing Ming waved the kyubi in his hand, blocking the attacks of two iron ninjas one after another, then took a step back, briefly setting a distance. The two Iwaijins did not pursue immediately, but separated from left and right, slowly approaching from both sides. During this period, I did not forget to use psychological tactics to influence Qing Ming's fighting will. Boy, stop struggling, you can't beat us. Now put down your weapons and surrender. Maybe we can spare your life. One of them said. Yes, boy, can you see if there are anyone around you who can help me? Surrender now to avoid suffering from flesh and blood. Another person echoed. Hearing this, Qing Ming glanced at the battlefield with his own light. Indeed, everyone nearby is fighting now, and no one can help him, even Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani are no exception. At this time, they were fighting with a young Iwa ninja, with a Konoha Shizunen assisting next to them. 3 to 1, although the situation is not very optimistic, will it be in danger of life for a while. After confirming this, Qing Ming quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he focused on the two people in front of him. Indeed, with 1 against 2, he is no match for both of them without opening the Sharingan, just relying on his melee ability. But equally, it is unlikely that these two people would simply kill him. So, the situation became deadlocked here. And this is exactly what he needs. As long as this situation can be maintained, Qing Ming will not be in a hurry at all. Anyway, time is on his side. As soon as reinforcements arrive, the crisis will naturally be resolved, and there is no need to fight and kill both of them. Thinking of this, Qing Ming's mentality became more stable. Seeing that Qing Ming was not affected by their words at all, the two Iwaijins simply stopped wasting their mouths and rushed towards him again. Ding ding dang dang. The harsh metal collision sounded one after another. Qing Ming's perception was fully opened, fighting against two, but he was slightly inferior. The battle lasted for 1 or 2 minutes. Finally, Yi Yang couldn't help it anymore. After making a gesture to his teammate, he suddenly opened the distance, as if he was about to perform some ninjutsu. Seeing this, Qing Ming said intimately, not good. Although he had known for a long time that the two of them could not let him delay time like this, it was beyond his expectations that the move had changed now. He thought he could delay for a few minutes no matter what, but losing patience in such a short time still caught him off guard. Qing Ming was about to widen the distance, but the only remaining Yan Nin in front of him suddenly stepped up the offensive, which made him unable to get out for a while. The situation is critical, Qing Ming said, do you want to use the Sharingan? With ambition and no intention, Qing Ming had sufficient confidence to kill the Iron Ninja in front of him with one blow, but then he was not sure whether he could hide it from another Iron Ninja. If the Sharingan is exposed, not to mention the subsequent trouble, just waiting, a bunch of Iwagen will come to siege him. After all, every Uchiha ninja who has turned on the Sharingan is a potential stock. If it can be killed, it will definitely be a big contribution. Moreover, the Sharingan is not protected by the cage bird, and Iwa Hidden Village does not mind robbing one for research. Of course, Qing Ming may not be able to do anything without using Sharingan, but this feeling of losing control of the situation makes Qing Ming feel insecure. Just as Qing Ming was struggling, several harsh whistles of varying lengths suddenly rang on the battlefield. Hearing this whistle, the Iron Ninja, who was already attacking frantically, suddenly stopped moving, and his expression changed drastically, and he quickly looked at the Iron Ninja who retreated to the back. Then the two of them formed seals together, performed some kind of earth escape ninjutsu, and rushed towards the outside of the battlefield together. Is this retreat? Qing Ming was both surprised and happy. If the other party evacuated, he would not have to worry about it. Chapter 36 Reinforcements in the end. They want to run. Stop them. Don't let them run away. Quote. One after another, a series of voices rang out on the battlefield. Obviously, Qing Ming not only discovered the attempts of the Iwa ninjas. Some people tried to stop them, but Qing Ming was unmoved. He has made enough contributions in this battle. He is about to be stable, but he really doesn't want to cause trouble. However, since Iwa Hidden Village chose to retreat, it means that Konoha's reinforcements have arrived, or it is not far away. Just as I was thinking in my heart, a giant suddenly revealed his figure from the cliff in the distance. It was a giant poisonous snake with horns on its head and covered with purple patterns. Its fierce eyes were filled with the pressure of top predators. 10,000 snakes. Qing Ming murmured. That's right, this giant snake is the psychic beast from the Dragon Earth Cave, Wanshi. As for how Qing Ming recognized it, it's very simple. Just above his head, between the two horns, stood a sinister man with golden vertical pupils, purple eyeshadows, and pale skin. Who else could it be if it is not Orochimaru? In this way, combined with the image of the giant snake, it is easy to guess its identity. If nothing unexpected happens, this will be the first batch of reinforcements. What Qing Ming didn't expect was that Orochimaru would come here in person. You should know that the other party is Konoha's commander-in-chief on the battlefield of the Rain Country, so it is not really appropriate to leave the base camp rashly. However, when Qing Ming thought of the opponent's strength, he felt relieved. As one of the three ninjas, Orochimaru's strength is definitely not weaker than any shadow-level strongman. With such strength, who can do anything to the other party in a hurry? What's more, this place is not far from Konoha's base camp in the Rain Country. If you really encounter an ambush, Orochimaru will only delay a little time and support will arrive soon. In this way, leaving the base camp for a short time is nothing. Moreover, with thousands of snakes around, the opponent can arrive at the battlefield in the shortest time and control the situation with absolute strength. In this way, it can not only buy time for subsequent reinforcements, but also reduce casualties on our own side. It's a killing two birds with one stone, why not do it? Afterwards, the development of things was similar to what Qing Ming expected. Orochimaru calmed down the scene as soon as he appeared, and a few simple ninjutsu stopped more than a dozen Iwaki Shanjinin. In this way, including the other people stopped by Konoha Shangren, as for the Shangren alone, almost half of the Shangren attacked by Iwai this time were left behind. In addition, dozens of Iwaki Zongren were stopped. Obviously, Orochimaru's intimate arrival was beyond the expectations of Iwahidang village and also disrupted their plans. Otherwise, Yan Hidden Village is ready and should not retreat so hasty. That's right, it's just hasty. Otherwise, how could so many people be left behind? The whistle just now should be an order for emergency retreat. It is precisely because of this that after hearing the whistle, the Iwai Zongnan who was fighting with him changed his face and then hurriedly ran away. This is the role of the top strong man, and only one person can change the situation of the battle. The majestic Ionin just now turned into a betrayal dog in a blink of an eye and was chased away by someone. However, Qing Ming did not have the intention to beat the dog in the water. After confirming that the surroundings were safe, he took out the ointment and bandage for the treatment of trauma from his ninja kit and began to deal with the injuries on his own. Although he did not suffer any serious injuries in the battle just now, he had a lot of skin trauma. If he was not treated as soon as possible, there might be some trouble. Tread. A sound of footsteps came. Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani came over from not far away. Qing Ming looked up and saw that there were many wounds on both sides, and his face was even pale. However, this is not caused by excessive blood loss, but is frightened by the scene in front of you. At this time, the battlefield had broken limbs and arms all over the ground, with blood and flesh everywhere, and the painful moans coming from time to time. It was good to be able to stand. Qing Ming glanced a little bit and found that there were about 200 surviving middle and lower ninjas on Konoha, about two-thirds of the previous one. It seems to be quite a lot, but don't forget that this battle lasted only for more than 10 minutes. Moreover, those Iwa ninjas are specifically focused on the killing of the ninjas. Therefore, among the more than 200 surviving people, most of them were Zongnan, and the death rate of Shonen was definitely more than 50%. And of these 50%, newbies account for more than half. Think about it, most of the corpses on the ground are students you know. What does it feel like? Qing Ming is a little better. He is not familiar with these people, so he doesn't feel deeply touched. But Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani are different. The former is good at socializing and has a good relationship with many classmates, while the latter is more careful and remembers everyone. In this way, the psychological pressure is so great that one can imagine. Qing Ming, do you think we will die on the battlefield one day? In the midst of silence, Ryosuke suddenly asked. No. Qing Ming just wanted to say, no, but opened his mouth but didn't say it. As for the Third Ninja War, the tragic level is no less than any ninja war. It is still the middle stages of the war, and the casualty rate is not too high, but when Konoha is pushed to the village gate, it will be tragic. Not to mention the middle and lower ninja, even the upper ninja will die in pieces. Qing Ming couldn't be sure that he could live safely to the end, so how could he have the right to tell Ryosuke that the other party would not die? After being silent for a long time, Qing Ming said, don't think too much, just try your best to live. Do your best to live. Ryosuke murmured and stopped talking. Time passes by minute. About 5 minutes later. The second batch of reinforcements arrived. This time, not only were the combatants, but also a large number of medical ninjas. As the first village to establish a relatively complete medical ninja training system, Konoha has more medical ninjas than other major ninjas. Therefore, the survival rate of the cruelty is far better than that of several other ninja villages. Just like now, those medical ninjas are quickly wandering on the battlefield under the protection of some combat ninjas, using medical ninjas to treat the injured ninjas. Those with mild injuries can recover on the spot, and those with severe injuries can also temporarily save their lives. Seeing the skin trauma recovered quickly, Qing Ming decided to learn a few medical ninjutsu no matter what. There is no way, medical ninjutsu is really too convenient. As long as chakra is enough, some minor injuries can be easily cured. Qing Ming doesn't think he will not be injured in the future, so it's better to be prepared for any trouble. Of course, if you can improve your physical attributes to a high enough so that the body can have a certain ability to heal yourself, you can also not use medical ninjutsu. But that's a long time later. It's so dangerous on the battlefield, you must first learn 1 or 2 medical ninjutsu to rescue. Alright. The medical ninja in front of him moved his hand away from Qing Ming's shoulder and instructed, don't touch water in the past few days, and do not exercise vigorously. You can recover completely in almost 3 days. Thanks. Qing Ming thanked sincerely. You're welcome. The medical ninja replied, then quickly walked towards another injured person. Chapter 37. 1 month later. Brush. A figure suddenly appeared in front of you. Teacher Furukawa. Times 3. Ao Ming, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani saw the visitor and quickly got up to greet him. That's right, the person coming is not someone else, it is Furukawa. As a Shangnin, Furukawa's task is much heavier than theirs, so it is naturally impossible to stay with them all the time. Otherwise, they would not have been bullied by several Iwai Zongren just now. Teacher, is the battle over? Qing Ming glanced at the sound of fighting gradually calming in the distance and asked. Furukawa nodded, glanced at the 3 of them, and said with relief, you are all still alive, not bad. However, when Qing Ming and others heard his praise, they didn't say anything. Furukawa doesn't care about this. He is a person who has experienced it and knows how many people feel now. Despite this, he still did not choose to comfort or enlighten him. In Fukugawa's view, ninjas must tolerate what ordinary people cannot tolerate, otherwise they will not deserve to be called ninjas. It is precisely based on this concept that he never enlightened students in his thoughts, and survival of the fittest is his criterion. After a while of silence, Furukawa said again, carry it out, and the team will set off in about half an hour. If you are lucky, you will arrive at the base camp before dark. You can rest at that time. After saying that, he hurriedly left. Okay, let's clean up. After he left, Qing Ming said this and then began to look for his own package. Because he had to stay outside for a long time this time, when he set off, in addition to carrying equipment and props, he also brought a lot of daily necessities such as changing clothes. However, when I was fighting just now, I was thrown away all of them. Fortunately, they are the winning side and can calmly find their own things. Seeing that Qing Ming began to act, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani calmed down and began to search for their own things. About half an hour later, the convoy set out again. Only a small number of people were left to continue cleaning the battlefield. It was night. A dense forest in the middle. Inside a tent, Qing Ming sat cross-legged, meditated quietly, and refined chakra. At this time, he had already arrived at Konoha's base camp in the Rain Country. According to Furukawa, their main task will be to adapt to the battlefield environment and adjust their mentality in the next period of time. During this period, there will be no heavy tasks. There is no doubt that this is a rare opportunity for Qing Ming. He can take advantage of this period to improve his strength to a higher level. Judging from today's battle, without opening the Sharingan, his strength is stronger than ordinary Chunin. It's okay to fight alone, but if you encounter more than 2 enemies at the same time, it will be a bit dangerous. Even if the enemy has no scruples and exerts all his strength, one person is enough to pose some threat to him. Although this is not a big threat, there is always a possibility of hurting him. And if he uses Sharingan, his strength should be greater than that of most Zongnan. But Zongren is nothing on the entire battlefield. Only by becoming a supreme nun can one have a certain degree of self-protection. But his current strength, even if he has full firepower, he cannot reach the level of the supreme ninja. Even if he is a second-class special ninja, as long as he is not a pure auxiliary type, he is likely to be an opponent. Unless he can evolve Sharingan to the second Guyu. But this will take at least several months. He can wait, but the enemy will not. Relying on this to improve one's strength is obviously not realistic. Therefore, Qing Ming planned to divide some chakra and increase the levels of several fire escape ninjutsu and illusion. In this way, the combat power can be improved in a short period of time. In this way, the self-protection ability will naturally increase. Although doing so will drag down the evolutionary speed of Sharingan, if you lose your life, then what's wrong with Sharingan? Only by saving your life first can you have the opportunity to talk about the future. Otherwise, nothing will be futile. 1 month later. On the outside of the base camp. 1 big and 3 small, 4 figures are walking through the forest. It can be seen that they are very cautious, not only observing the movements around them at all times, but also stopping from time to check for some hidden traps and signs. These 4 people are none other than Class 17 composed of Furukawa, Aomi, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani. At this time, they were carrying out patrol missions to the ***** base camp. Or, in other words, they have been carrying out this task in the past month, but as time goes by, the defense zone in charge is becoming more and more important. Of course, importance means danger. At first, they encountered enemies less than once every 10 days or half a month, and the mission was relatively easy. But after they adapt to the battlefield environment and the area they are responsible for changes, the task will not be so easy. Now, almost every few days, they will find traces of enemy invasion. Although most of the time, when they arrived, the enemy had already run away, there were still a few more times when the enemy did not have time to retreat. At this time, you have to work hard. None of the enemies who can be sent to perform lurking infiltration missions are good. Therefore, every encounter can be described as dangerous. Their team leader is a real supreme ninja, and can provide them with a certain degree of protection. Otherwise, the 17th class may have lost its staff. But I have to say that such an environment is very exercising. Whether it is Qing Ming, Ryosuke, or Shizuko Mizutani, after this month's mission, the student energy on his body has disappeared, and the only thing left is ability. Just like now, the 4 of them stopped and without Fukukawa's instructions, Qing Ming and the other 2 started to do their own things tacitly. Aoming is responsible for the alert, and Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani are responsible for checking nearby traps and signs. Everything is so orderly. A moment later, Ryosuke and Shizuko Mizutani returned to the team and reported, "Teacher, there is no problem." Very good. Furukawa nodded and said, "Let's go to the last point." "Yes, teacher." ×3. The group of 4 rushed to the last mission point. Unless necessary along the way, no one spoke, all 4 pairs of eyes were watching around, and they were alert to any possible dangers. Fortunately, I have good luck today. After checking the last mission point, they found no trace of the enemy. Qing Ming and others breathed a sigh of relief unconsciously. After waiting for a while, after completing the handover with the patrol team that came to change defense, they returned to the temporary station. Late at night, in the temporary residence, Qing Ming completed the implementation of the Shining Heart technique, again. After a moment, he opened his eyes and a trace of enlightenment flashed in his eyes. Is this LV4? With a murmur, Qing Ming raised his hands again and began to form seals to perform the soul-reflecting technique. The next moment, I saw his hands blooming, and the seal was completed. The speed was unimaginable. Not only the casting speed, but after the Spirit of Heart was upgraded to LV4, the promotion effect of Sharingan evolution has also been greatly improved. Qing Ming closed his eyes and carefully felt the process of the special chakra in his brain nourishing his eyes. After a while, when he disappeared, he made a seal again and used the Spirit of Heart reflection. Just like that, over and over again. After 5 times, Qing Ming stopped exercising. At this time, he only felt that his Sharingan had taken another step from single Guju to double Guju. Chapter 38 Harvest. Panel. With a thought, Qing Ming opened the proficiency panel. A familiar light blue light curtain emerges. Name: Uchiha Aomi. Age: 11 years old. Physical constitution: 7. Spirit: 9. Chakra: 1150 4074 right pointing arrow 5026. Bloodline: Sharingan single Gochu 69 1000ths right pointing arrow 112 1000ths. Skill: Chakra refining, LV3 454 1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 664 1000ths. Fire escape the art of the great fireball, LV1 5200ths right pointing arrow LV2 11 500ths. Fire escape phoenix immortal fire art, LV1 5200ths right pointing arrow LV2 7 500ths. Fire escape dragon fire technique, LV1 1 200th right pointing arrow LV2 2 500ths. Magic the art of shackles, LV1 1 200th right pointing arrow LV1 105 200ths. Instant body technique, LV2 15 500ths right pointing arrow LV2 234 500ths. Shadow clone technique, LV0 5 100ths. The art of reflecting the heart, LV3 875 1000ths right pointing arrow LV4 6 2000ths. Throwing tools, LV3 60 1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 210 1000ths. Chakra control, LV3 102 1000ths right pointing arrow LV3 131 1000ths. 3 body techniques, LV3 0 over 0. Basic physical skills, LV3 0 over 0. Skipping through the basic attributes, Qing Ming looked directly at the bloodline column. As expected, his Sharingan proficiency has indeed increased a little. Let's look at the art of reflecting the heart, LV4 6 2000ths. In other words, the proficiency of just 5 points of spiriting the heart has increased his Sharingan proficiency a little, and the effect is twice as strong as when LV3. After confirming this, Qing Ming breathed a sigh of relief. As he expected, with the upgrading of the shining art, its role in promoting Sharingan evolution is also gradually increasing. This means that he can use less chakra in exchange for greater progress. In the past, when you needed 10 points of proficiency, you had to consume 1700 chakra, but now. Then it only takes 850 a clock. Although it is still not as good as the 300 points of time when you simply open your eyes, it is much better than when you are LV3. In the future, even if the Sharingan cannot be exposed at will, he will not have to worry about the evolutionary speed of the Sharingan. The only regret is that since his chakra limit reached 5026 points a week ago, he ran the chakra refinement technique, and the value has no longer increased. Based on past experience, Qing Ming knew that his potential had been tapped. Afterwards, if the basic attributes cannot be improved, it will only grow little by little over time. In this way, he unscrupulously consumed chakra and used the shining heart technique to speed up the evolution of Sharingan. However, Qing Ming was not too disappointed with this. Because even if this upper limit is not stuck, he cannot use chakra unscrupulously. Limited by the level of the chakra refining technique and his own talent, even if he is nutritious at this stage, the chakra he can use only about 3500 points every day. In this case, even if he wants to squander, there is no extra chakra for him to squander. What's more, he has to leave enough chakra to prepare for emergencies. Then it is even less likely to consume it at will. Retracting his thoughts, Qing Ming looked at other skills in the skill column. Thanks to the relaxed environment in the first half of a month after he arrived at the camp, he squeezed the chakra dry almost every day and spent all his spare time to practice. In the end, more than 46,000 chakra were spent, and as I wished, the Fire Escape High Fireball Technique, Fire Escape Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique, and Fire Escape Dragon Fire Technique were upgraded to LV2. At this time, performing these ninjutsu will not only be faster, but also adjust the power of ninjutsu on a larger scale. At this point, he has initially achieved the goal of improving combat power. In the next half-month, due to the increased difficulty of the task, the time he can practice every day and the chakra he can use are less than before. Therefore, the Magic Shadow Technique did not practice LV2 as expected, and the current progress was only halfway through LV1. Of course, if all chakra is put into it, it can also be promoted to LV2. But considering the evolution of Sharingan, a large part of the chakra was used by him to improve his proficiency in the spirit of heart reflection. In addition, the instant body technique has been increased from LV2 15 500ths to LV2 234 500ths, which has also consumed a lot of chakra. Therefore, his magic Yakahong technique did not advance. However, this does not matter. Because at this stage he has no intention of exposing the Sharingan at all. This technique must be coordinated with the Sharingan to exert its due power, so it does not matter whether it advances. If you want to have a sudden attack, LV1 is enough. Of course, if there is extra chakra, he will not be stingy in his investment. After all, the higher the level, the better the effect, and the more difficult it is for the enemy to deal with. In the long run, Sharingan is definitely the core of his ability, so the skills that match him cannot be missed. Therefore, if you invest chakra on it, you won't lose money no matter what. He nodded secretly, and Qing Ming turned his attention to the two skills of ninja tool throwing and chakra control. Originally, after these two skills were upgraded to LV3, their proficiency was not very active. But since he awakened the Sharingan, the proficiency of these two skills has begun to rise again. Especially the non-autal throwing tool has made rapid progress with Sharingan cooperation. He just practiced occasionally in a corner where no one was around, and his proficiency increased from LV3 61 thousandths to LV3 210 1 thousandths, and the progress bar had reached 1/5. Now, in terms of ninja throwing, he is already the best. The kuna and shuriken he throws can also pose a significant threat to ninjas with similar strength. Of course, it is undoubtedly a dream to kill the other party with this skill. Only when he upgrades the nonsense tool throw to LV4 and then activates the Sharingan assist, he will probably have such a glimmer of chance. But it's just a trace. Ninjas with similar combat power as him have several unique skills, and it is really difficult to kill them just by relying on their torture tools. It can be seen that his proficiency in this technique is only LV0 5/100ths. Obviously, he only tried a few times and gave up. The reason for this is very simple, that is, practicing this technique will cause too much damage to chakra. Let's take a shadow clone as an example. Even if he does nothing, he will immediately remove the shadow clone after completing the operation, and the chakra assigned to the shadow clone's body will lose 10%. What does it mean? He had 5,000 chakras and used the shadow cloning technique to separate out a shadow clone, and his body and clone each received 2,500 chakras. At this time, even if you do nothing, you will immediately remove the shadow clone technique. The 2,500 chakra in the shadow segment's body will also be less than 250 points after returning to his body. And this is just a shadow clone. If it increases to 4 paths, the body and clone each receive 1,000 chakra, then after removing the shadow clone, he will lose 400 chakra, that is, 1/10 of each shadow clone. In other words, the more shadow clones he gets, the more chakra he loses each time. Even if he uses the minimum standard, he will divide a shadow clone to try the proficiency of the shadow clone technique, he will consume 250 chakra each time. How could Qing Ming be willing to give up? So, after practicing a few times, he gave up. Just wait for when chakra is more than enough to practice. Anyway, he has more time than chakra, so he doesn't need to help him get proficiency, so he doesn't have to rush to learn this technique. After summarizing the gains of the past month, Qing Ming closed the panel and began to meditate and refine the chakra. 2 hours later, Chakramo recovered to about 2,000 points. Qing Ming opened his eyes, stretched his waist, and began to sleep and rest. There is still a task tomorrow, and he must ensure he is energetic. Chapter 39 Night Attack Part 1. Shifted. Time comes to the second half of the night. Boom. Suddenly, an explosion came from a distance, awakening Qing Ming from his sleep. In just a moment, his eyes went from confusion to sharp. Almost without much hesitation, Qing Ming grabbed the ninja bag and forehead beside him, and turned over and sat up. After leaving the tent, he was already fully armed. And there were several people who walked out with him, including their team leader Furukawa. After 3 or 2 steps, I came to Fukukawa and looked into the distance with the other person's eyes. I could vaguely hear some fighting sounds there. Obviously, something happened. The patrol and defense tasks in this area are under the responsibility of 2 teams, one of which is responsible for the daytime and the other is responsible for the night. The first team where their 17th squad is patrolling during the day, while the second team that handed over to them is at night. There is no doubt that it is the second team that is fighting against the unknown enemy. The second team has 4 squads, 2 of which are the same as their squad, and are composed of 1 upper ninja and 3 lower ninjas. The remaining 2 teams are all matched by a special upper nin and 3 middle nin. In this way, including the captain of the upper nin level, the second team has a total of 17 people, including 3 upper nin, 2 special upper nin, and 6 each of the lower nin. This is almost no different from their first team. Now, Qing Ming only hopes that the enemy accidentally revealed his whereabouts and was caught by a team from the second team, and a battle had to start. Otherwise, the trouble will be great. Because that means that the enemy's overall combat power will not be lower than that of them, and the mission will no longer be lurking and infiltration in the past, but will be a surprise attack. In this way, both sides will inevitably fight to the death. Just as Qing Ming was pondering, the first team was assembled. At the same time, there were also fighting sounds in the other 2 directions in the forest. Okay, no need to guess. This is 100% not lurking or infiltration. Whoever lurks in infiltration will organize multiple troops at the same time, so it is difficult to evacuate if it is discovered. Seeing that they didn't care about the leak of their whereabouts, they were obviously preparing to fight a raid. Only, Qing Ming didn't understand what the significance of this raid was. This is just a temporary station and there are no important facilities. Even if it is built, it seems to have no value. What's more, this place is not too far from Konoha base camp. As long as they send the information back in time, the base camp can support it at any time. In other words, the enemy cannot defend it at all. Even, there is the risk of being made into dumplings. Why did the enemy do such things that are completely unequal to risks and benefits? The vitality of destroying Konoha. Please. There are only a few people here, and there are no famous ninjas. Even if they are killed, how much impact will it have on Konoha? Borrowing the way. But there shouldn't be any more troubles when you use the road. The information was asymmetry, and for a moment, Qing Ming couldn't guess the enemy's thoughts, so he simply stopped thinking about it. At this time, Hiroshi Nakajima, the captain of their first team, stood up. This is a middle-aged man, and he speaks as an order. Everyone has it. Everyone immediately stood up straight and waited for his next command. First team. Exist. A thin upper ninja stood up with 3 lower ninjas. Qing Ming knew that this person was named Seiya Okura, and he looked weak, but in fact he had a very strong combat power, not at all weaker than their team leader, Furukawa. Saint, your team stayed at the camp. Hiroshi Nakajima ordered. Yes, Captain. Okura-sei had no objection, and after responding, he stepped back. Hiroshi Nakajima looked at the others and said, second, third, and fourth teams. Exist. The captains of the 3 squads responded at the same time. You will set out with me immediately to support the second team. Yes, Captain. Furukawa and others responded again. Qing Ming didn't understand such an arrangement very much. According to his idea, Okura-sei is so strong that he should support him with the team. Staying here is a waste of talent. Fortunately, Hiroshi Nakajima soon let him know the meaning of this arrangement. He only heard him say this, Saint, now summon the psychic beast. Okura-sei nodded without any surprise, then bit his thumb, and blood was left along his palm. As if he could not feel the pain, he quickly formed the 5 seals of Haishuyu Shen Wei, using blood as a guide, and used spiritual techniques to summon a night owl. Then, I don't know what kind of ninjutsu he used to connect Yi Xiao's vision with his own vision. In this way, he will also see whatever Yi Xiao sees simultaneously. At this point, Qing Ming also understood Hiroshi Nakajima's meaning. The other party obviously planned to let the night owl act with them, and then pass the information back in real time through the connection between it and Okura-seiya. After that, Okura-seiya contacted the base camp to let the base camp understand the situation here. By then, whether it is support or counter-encirclement, it can be targeted. Sure enough, Hiroshi Nakajima's next words confirmed his speculation. Saint, you will control the owl. Next, follow us in secret, and pass the information to the base camp at any time. Upon hearing this, Okura-sei nodded, indicating that there was no problem. Puff! A sound of flapping wings came. The night owl, which was also summoned by Okura-saint, soared into the sky and disappeared into the night sky in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, Hiroshi Nakajima nodded, then said to Qing Ming and others, let's go. After saying that, he took the lead and ran towards the forest. Qing Ming and others did not dare to delay and hurriedly chased after him. What made Qing Ming feel relieved was that Hiroshi Nakajima did not blindly divide his troops, but took them all to the nearest battlefield together. Obviously, I plan to figure out the situation and then act according to the opportunity. In this regard, Qing Ming raised his hands and feet to agree. The situation is unclear now, and it is undoubtedly a very dangerous move to split the troops rashly. If it is defeated by everyone, it will be a lot of fun. Fortunately, Hironuo Nakajima took office as the team leader. He was not a fool and did not make such a low-level mistake. This calmed Qing Ming's uneasy heart a little calmed down. Brush. In the dense forest, Qing Ming and others walked quickly, and they were about to approach the battlefield. Hiroshi Nakajima in front suddenly raised his right arm and signaled everyone to stop. Everyone stopped immediately and looked around vigilantly. At some point, the cries of insects and birds in the forest had stopped. Under the quiet night sky, there was only the rustling sound of the night wind blowing through the leaves. The surroundings are terribly quiet. Everyone held their breath and observed the surroundings, as if there were some ferocious insects and beasts hidden around them, making people afraid to breathe. Chapter 40 Night Attack Part 2. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, bursts of sounds broke through the air. There were dozens or hundreds of kunai shot from the dense forest ahead, just like raindrops, densely packed, making people dare not look directly at it. Careful! Hiroshi Nakajima shouted loudly, and his hands quickly completed the seal. After taking a deep breath, he exhaled it violently. Wind escape big breakthrough. The simple sea-level ninjutsu was used by him, and the power was no less than that of some attack-type high-level ninjutsu. I saw a whirlwind gushing out of his mouth, like a 12-level wind passing through the border, knocking down a large forest ahead. As for Kanai, I had been blown backwards long ago. Qing Ming estimated that the other party's mastery of this technique should not be less than LV3, and the chakra consumed in a single time was definitely more than 500 points. Otherwise, this effect will not be caused. Logically speaking, if we just want to stop those kunai from approaching, Hiroshi Nakajima would not need to consume so much chakra. Is he chakrado so nowhere to be used? The answer is obviously no. Hiroshi Nakajima did this, on the one hand, to prevent those knights from approaching, but more so, they actually wanted to take the lead and attack the enemy's momentum. By the way, destroy the traps that the enemy may have secretly arranged and force the enemy to appear. Facts have proved that his approach is very effective. Before the smoke and dust fell, more than a dozen Iwagens rushed out of it. Although they tried their best to act calmly, the remaining branches and leaves on their bodies still made them look a little embarrassed. However, Qing Ming and others couldn't laugh. No, just after these people appeared, nearly 10 Iwa ninjas walked out from both sides. The eyes swept over these people, and Qing Ming said intimately, "It's trouble." At this time, the Iwa ninja in the field was roughly divided into 6 teams, and the captain of each team was wearing the Ugnan uniform of Iwaken village. Although I don't know how many of them are truly sutured, the worst ones are 6 of them, which is already surpassing them. Except for the first team left behind in the temporary garrison, there are only 13 people on their side, including 2 of the upper ninjas, 2 of the upper ninjas, 6 of the upper ninjas, and 3 of the lower ninjas. And what about the other party? Except for these 6 people wearing upper nin uniforms, half of the remaining 18 people were Zongnin and half were Shonin. Both in quantity and quality, they were better than them. Just this, I haven't counted those Iwa ninja who are fighting with the second team. Since the other party dares to draw so many people to block them here, it means that he is confident enough to deal with the second team. Either those people are strong or there are many people. No matter which one it is not a good thing for them. Because this means that when the battle over there is over, they will have more enemies. Lucky. Qing Ming glanced at the night sky in a hidden way. I believe that Okura-sei has already seen the situation here. As long as they persist for a while, the base camp's support should be able to arrive soon. By then, all difficulties will be solved. If you move quickly, you may be able to surround these Iwa ninjas in the reverse direction. But, what he could think of was impossible for Yan Hidden Village to imagine. Take such a big risk to come here just to kill these dozens of minions. This is obviously impossible. Qing Ming felt a vague premonition in his heart. As expected, as soon as the Iwagen on both sides approached, the encirclement was initially formed, the Iwagens launched an attack. There is no nonsense on the battlefield, and one fight will make a life and death battle. However, the huge gap in number puts Konoha at an absolute disadvantage. The only thing that is thankful is that both sides have the Shangnin present, so there is no scene where the Shangnin bullies the small and slaughters the Shonin. This is also the unspoken rule of the battlefield, unless you have an absolute advantage, the upper ninja will not easily attack the lower ninja. In order to retaliate, the superior ninja in other countries will also target their own inferior ninja. The result of mutual harm is that there will be no fewer inferior ninja on both sides. The village's reserve forces are all dead, so let's just spoil it. Even so, Qing Ming and others are under great pressure. Looking at the several teammates who were struggling to support, Qing Ming knew that he could no longer paddle and he had to reduce the number of enemies as soon as possible to reduce the pressure on his teammates. Otherwise, when his teammates suffer casualties, his pressure will rise sharply. As soon as he thought of this, Qing Ming opened the panel and glanced at chakra 2100 points, and then murmured, "It's enough." Hearing his murmur, the young Iwa nin who was fighting him paused slightly and blurted out, "What's enough?" Upon hearing this, Qing Ming was also stunned. He did not expect that the young man in front of him would be so active, and he did not forget to pay attention to what the enemy said during the battle. Maybe the pressure is not too high. Single quote. Thinking of this in his heart, Qing Ming took advantage of the moment when the opponent's movements paused and exploded with all his strength and approached his body at an extremely fast speed. Then, my wrist turned, and the straight grip became a reverse grip, and it stroked straight to the boy's throat. Looking at the coming kuwu and feeling the sharp aura on it, the boy's mind went blank, but he just followed his instinct to flash back. Swish! Kubu passed through the air, leaving a white mark, but failed to hit the young man. The boy touched his neck and confirmed that he was still alive. The joy of surviving the disaster flashed in his eyes. But at this moment, a voice came from the side. "Careful. What should I be careful?" Single quote. The young man was puzzled and looked around. He saw that he was helping him attack Qing Ming's companion just now, and he was looking at him anxiously. No, to be more precise, it was looking at his chest. The boy looked down and saw a detonation talisman emitting a faint flame. In an instant, the boy's face turned pale, the joy in his pupils disappeared, leaving only deep despair. No. A roar of despair mixed with fear came from the boy's mouth. The next moment, a deafening explosion sounded. The red flame appeared, and the blink of an eye swallowed the young man's entire body. At this time, Qing Ming had already used the momentum technique to stay away from the boy. The fire shone on his face, without causing any change in his expression. On the battlefield, it is a life and death battle. Both sides have different positions, so Qing Ming naturally won't feel sorry for the enemy. Even after killing the other party, he almost didn't stop and immediately focused on Yingxia Nin who had just spoken to remind him. Swish 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 swish. 3 shurikens shot out. The Iwaijin dodged left and right, but was eventually hit by a shuriken. You should know that Qing Ming's Nigan to beat throw is LV3 210 1000ths. The thrown ninja will have a certain threat to the Zongnan, let alone a lower ninja with unstable mind. Therefore, the other party was hit on the spot. Only Qing Ming doesn't have the right poison, otherwise the other party could have been waiting to die now. However, there is no big problem, just make up for it. Thinking of this, Qing Ming used the momentum body technique again and came to the Yanyan Shaninder at a speed that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.